Hey guys, welcome to Box Office Addict, episode 60. We made it, guys. 60 fucking episodes. I'm glad you're here too, Castle. Or Castiel, my bad. Oh, and happy 9/11, everybody. I hope you're having a nice barbecue with your family and friends celebrating this joyous holiday. I'm very happy to be doing a Box Office Addict on 9/11. It's my favorite day of the year. I typically have a few drinks and, you know, put in some home videos of what I was doing that day and, you know, just have a good laugh, you know? Just a typical celebration of all things 9/11. I just got off school 2 hours ago. I just got off several times 2 hours ago. Jesus, 60 episodes, what's wrong with me? And what's wrong with you if you've been here for that many, you fucking crazy bastard? We've been on a long journey, my friends. BOA has had its ups, it's had its downs, it's had its middles, it's had its sideways, it's had all sorts of things. It's just been a clusterfuck of everything. But the main thing it's been is a time to come together. A time to not think about the past with certain things collapsing. I won't go into detail. But us building together. Building the show. And the quality content that it is. I think The Assassination of Jesse James is a good film. So today's going to be an exciting show. We have a lot to cover this week. This is going to be an awesome fucking episode, I think, all around. We got an awesome movie to talk about, The Nun. I mean, not that the movie itself's awesome, but the opening weekend's awesome. A lot of movies are making money right now, so there's a lot to discuss just in the financial terms, what's going on with Hollywood right now, and how successful so many movies are right now, and how, honestly, it's booming. The box office is straight up just booming in 2018, where a few years ago, I remember there was the sentiment going around that things were kind of declining and people weren't going to the theater as much, and there was a worry that streaming was going to take over. As of right now, even though I still think that's where things eventually are going to go, as of right now, it seems like people are going to the movies. There's a lot of genres and types of movies right now that are really doing well. So I don't know if it's just because we're in very divided, cynical times, so people are trying to escape from all the negativity, which typically, and a lot of deaths. Burt Reynolds died. Mac Miller died. A lot of celebrities have been dying this year like crazy. I mean, Philip Roth died. Harlan Ellison. It's been a very depressing year. So we're going to go into all of that, the box office, and we're going to talk about Patrick Williams' recent video on The Last Jedi and why it's great, which I know currently Mahler and Wolf are doing a 5-hour live stream on, which if they would have invited me on that, I would be doing that right now, but obviously I'm not going to get invited on that, although I would have liked that. So I'm going to be doing simultaneously the same thing they're doing at the same time, because why? Well, that's what simultaneously means, but I'm going to be doing the same thing they're doing, because why the fuck not, I guess. That's the world we live in. Yeah, I guess I should set up a Discord. I just hate Discord, but I guess I might as well just start the Please Rewind Discord already. So once again, I'm competing with another live stream, just like I'm always competing with Mr. Medicare. I just can't seem to win. Like, oh, I won't do it on Sundays anymore. And it's like, of course people do streams during the same time. It's just some weird, poor luck that I have. Oh, it is dumb, Bathory. It's so dumb. Yeah, secretly, deep down, you know, somebody played an audio clip for me. They timestamped an old box office act where somebody asked me about The Last Jedi and if I thought it'd be better than Force Awakens, and I said certainly. I mean, it's like 5 minutes of me going like, I have no doubt Rian Johnson can make a better film than J.J. Abrams. Aesthetically, the writing, everything. It'll have better acting, everything. I'm not saying it'll be good, but it'll definitely be better than Force Awakens. It's like hilarious to listen to that now. I want to use that in a video at some point, because Last Jedi is so much worse than Force Awakens, and I was wrong in every single thing I said. Because I just convinced myself that Rian Johnson was going to make an adequate film. Even my first trailer reaction, I'm being very positive about the movie. And then for months I was talking to Blood Money about the film, and he kept trying to tell me, like, oh, you're putting too much faith in Rian Johnson, man. And I kind of felt this closer and closer to the movie coming out, fear. As I got closer to it. When I was from a distance, it was just all positive. The first trailer, everything I was reading about the movie, and then the closer I got to seeing that Star Wars font pop out of the screen at me, almost like 3D coming right into my face, I realized, like, oh wait, no, this is gonna be bad. This is gonna be horrible. I almost felt it immediately in the theater. It was strange how quickly it hit me that this was going to be something special, and not special in the kind of positive way that you would like it to be. So that's very interesting, thinking back that I actually at one point was positive about The Last Jedi. Now, this is before the movie had come out, so... And I don't like cynicism. I wish you went with those guys to tear this video apart. As do I. I think that would have been really funny. It's gonna be like the old days. I guess I did used to do that. Yeah, that's true. Back in the patriarchy days, the live streams would be, I would just respond to videos. Those are some of my favorite videos I ever did on this channel. Hassan Minhaj, when he did a correspondence dinner, and then I did that video Superwoman, and she made that terrible video. And and then I made fun of people reacting to that video. I remember that one stream where I just watched a bunch of reaction videos. That was funny. People who had like 50,000 subscribers and they didn't do anything except make facial expressions when they watched a video. Which I know iDubbbz already did that video. I mean, it's one of the worst fucking genres on YouTube is the reaction videos. But I guess, yeah, I don't do that enough. I guess I should do that more, is react to other people's content. It's a good way to get people to watch you on YouTube for some reason. How long has this been running? Not very long. I think we just started. I mean, of course Patrick was going to make this video, though. There was no way around it. He made his plot holes video, which got a lot of negative reception, and like a little bitch baby that he is, who needs to go bathe in the sink and quit using his parents for shitty humor, he decides, okay, well, I'm going to talk about the language of Star Wars to just try and further his argument, his point of view on Star Wars and what's good or bad. Because he's not saying in that plot hole video that This is me trying to objectively explain things to you. This is him saying that you don't agree with me and this is how you're wrong. It's basically what I Hate Everything did with his video that was shit. Pretty much anyone who defends The Last Jedi in that way is shit. Once again, it's okay to like The Last Jedi, but when you try to do the same, when you use the same arguments that were debunked months ago, I think my first live stream was that video you did about reaction. That was a good live stream, was it? I mean, maybe I remember wrong. I remember that being like one of my best live streams, because back in the patriarchy days, I didn't give a shit. I used to just say I was raw. It was like a roast. Back when I was less professional. But the issue is, a lot of the arguments Patrick uses in the video are just ones that were used back in December. The film does things that are new. It subverted my expectations. Oh, all you care about is SJWs. You hate that it wasn't the film you wanted it to be. Your theories weren't. It's the same arguments that were all the way back in December when people didn't like the movie. And as the months have gone on, I can't believe people are still using these arguments. I mean, they're terrible. They didn't hold any water then. We went after those arguments then. And here we are months later. Or it's a movie for kids. It's about space wizards. It's about stupid fantasy stuff. Don't take it so seriously. Even though the people saying this usually take the movie very seriously and are very upset that so many people dislike it. I don't know what it is with this film in particular compared to other films. I don't know why so many people are denying the faults of The Last Jedi and blindly defending it. When they talk about this movie, their opinion and their way of breaking down films, their analytical side, becomes so much more generic than when they talk about other films. You'll see this happen. Just Writes Hobbit videos, and then when he talks about The Last Jedi, all of a sudden they'll treat this film with this reverence and treat it as this intellectually stimulating piece of cinema. They'll be like, no, these scenes are emotional. These parts are great. The Nostalgia Critic did it when he did that video with Chris Stuckman after the movie came out, and they talked about parts of it being bad, but they're like, but this stuff's so great. And all this stuff they're saying is just not true. And I'm saying that completely acknowledging that part of my feelings are subjective, but this idea that these scenes are super emotional, the stuff's intelligent, it's what a lot of critics said on Rotten Tomatoes when the movie came out. And it's just bullshit. It's why so many of us went to the movie fucking confused when we came out of it, because people were saying that stuff. And it's like, that wasn't true. I was cringing during those scenes. I was looking at these scenes going, I feel nothing. There's a clinical tone to these new Star Wars sequels. There's one critic in particular who wrote a negative review of The Last Jedi that I think summed it up pretty well, where he said the clinical tone or sterile tone, he said something along those lines, established in Force Awakens carries over here. And it holds this film back from ever hitting the emotional highs it's trying to accomplish. That's very true. In trying to be meta and self-aware and almost, in a sense, acknowledge that you're making a Star Wars film, and J.J. Abrams did this, the films have come in immediately with a tone that is, let's say, the polar opposite of like why an Avengers Infinity War worked, because Marvel has a nice tone and actually embraces its pop art nature. So when you get to Infinity War, the emotions feel earned and genuine because of what Marvel did over those 10 years, where these new Star Wars films, yeah, they're very clinical. And it's established in Force Awakens, and it's carried over in Last Jedi. So you're supposed to feel something when Luke walks out to face the First Order. You're supposed to feel these moments with Snoke, Rey, and Kylo. You're supposed to feel emotions when Poe, fails and he's on the walkie-talkie with Finn. But you don't. You don't feel anything, and you feel weird. Plinkett talked about this. It just feels fucking weird because the internal logic isn't there. The thing that's supposed to hold the movie together, to be coherent, to make those emotional scenes work, is not right. It's all fallen apart. You actually feel nothing because the things that are in the background, not on the surface level, don't work. And this is why we've been criticizing these movies, because we're just tearing down like, no, this stuff doesn't work. The world building doesn't work. The logic isn't there. The craftsmanship isn't there. But other people are just taking it on the surface level. They're more giving the film credit for what it's trying to do, for what they're clearly trying to do with the emotional manipulation, instead of looking at the film for what it actually accomplishes. They're praising a film for what it attempts instead of praising a film for what it succeeds in doing, which I have not seen for many films in recent times. This is very strange with these films in particular. Some people don't like some of the Harry Potter films who are fans of the books or fans of the films. They don't like either the early films Chris Columbus made, They don't like Prisoner of Azkaban. They don't like they don't like Goblet of Fire, or they don't like the whole final stretch of films. They think they have a lot of plot holes or things don't make sense. The last like 4 or 5 films. And you talk to Harry Potter fans, you hear different things. And I like all the Harry Potter films for different reasons, but to me, what Harry Potter had going for it was that there was internal logic in the world that was established that made sense. Things seemed to make sense in Harry Potter, even if everything wasn't fully explained. And so when they did try to do emotional things, I think for the most part it worked, because it felt like there was care put into the characters and the storytelling. And the main thing was the world felt like it had a lot of care put into it, which it did. They had a dense amount of material to pull from. These new Star Wars films, they're not really pulling from anything. It's just different writers having to do their own thing, so the films don't feel connected at all. But outside of that, it feels like there wasn't a lot of thought put behind what are the themes, why is the First Order established? What is it? Why is Leia, Luke, and Han's relationships the way it are? Why is Kylo the way he is? Why is Rey the way she is? It doesn't seem like there was any thought put behind these things, quite frankly. When you hear anyone try to explain it, they're just adding things that aren't in the films themselves, or the things that they're adding in there aren't really that interesting. They're trying to argue a more interesting film that actually exists. And when you think about actually good movies that come out, like Her, or A Good Time, or Three Billboards, or something like that, and you think about how well written and well thought out those films are, even the meta aspects of something like Three Billboards, then you think about these people praising The Last Jedi as this brilliant movie. It's just confusing. And it's not that we're stupid and we don't understand the movie or what they're saying. It's that they're speaking nonsense. It's just complete nonsense. It's childish. It's like teenagers talking about movies. It reminds me of teenage film buffs talking about the cinematography and praising Stanley Kubrick in the most generic way possible, or talking about David Lynch or something without really giving any insight or saying anything new. They don't have a new perspective. That's the point we're at with these Star Wars films, where people are talking about them in a way that they're just not. They're second-tier Harry Potter films. They're not even worthy of the original trilogy, but they're worse than the Harry Potter franchise. To me, if the Harry Potter films weren't well produced by David Hyman, and Steve Kloves didn't write the scripts and all that, and they didn't hire good directors. They remind me if the Harry Potter franchise had been terrible. That's what it feels like to me. But because it's Star Wars, it's such a significant film franchise. Because people were apologists for the prequels. People forget about this now. Is that there was a period where everybody was praising the prequels just because they love Star Wars. Even though those movies got tore apart and were revealed to just be horribly written and executed, and just bad filmmaking, bad cinematography, bad blocking. It looked like a soap opera. I mean, it's the aesthetics of a soap opera. People still somehow made up excuses of there being a brilliant plot and subtext that George Lucas had in there, and his genius is hidden there. You know, he made some mistakes, but overall the prequels have a lot of strengths. And then that kind of died down again, this revisionist history that the prequels were somehow good and underrated, which I think they've just gotten worse with time. I can't even sit through the prequels anymore. There was a point in the 2000s where I didn't like the prequels, but I could still watch like Revenge of the Sith. You know, it's like a blockbuster. And now I can't even finish those movies. They look so bad now. They've dated so horribly in the CGI, and they're unwatchable for me. I can't even sit through Attack of the Clones anymore. I can't watch that movie. I remember it just happened to me one day. It was on cable and I clicked on it. I was like, fuck, I can't watch this. And now we're at a point where people are talking about very specific things. They're either praising the aesthetics, they're praising thematic ideas, subtext that are ideas, not the execution of them within the screenplay and the film itself. And they talk about the acting, or Kylo Ren, and they praise these things and ignore all the valid criticisms, and then they focus on, well, people attacked Kelly Marie transgender, or people are butthurt because they didn't get what they wanted, or people are cruel, they're going after your toxic fandom. This is a term that we're going to be hearing for the next few years. It's become Gamergate 2.0. And the problem with this, essentially, without trying to repeat what's being said by a lot of people out there, like a Mahler, is that it's clear that these people are the ones with the biases that are affected because people don't love Star Wars anymore, and they see that the brand is dwindling and that there's a negative impact. So they're trying to fight it. They're trying to counter it by making up narratives and straw manning any kind of negative reception to the movie. They're ignoring all the valid things that point out the plot holes, the inconsistencies with lore with the universe, things that just don't make sense. And they're just ignoring that and focusing on these broader arguments that create more divide that make... It's basically the calling everyone a Nazi or a racist or a sexist thing that SJWs did. And then they'll say, oh, well, you just hate SJWs. It's like, no, you're the one making this political. Kathleen Kennedy made this fucking political. Okay, Lucasfilm made this political. There's so much evidence of the writers from who worked on Rogue One and what J.J. Abrams has said being political about these new Star Wars films. Don't give me that fucking shit when you say, oh, you just want to make this political about SJWs, but it's a fantasy film about space wizards, when there's evidence overwhelmingly to show that the filmmakers behind these movies have shown their politics and put them in the film and discuss it frequently. It's been discussed. This is like trying to say, oh, you just hate Ghostbusters because it has women in it, and then ignoring the fact that there's all this evidence with the Sony email links and with Amy Pascal and Paul Feig that it was all about that it was about female empowerment and saying fuck you to men. I mean, this is ridiculous. They just ignore the evidence to try to make a false narrative. Fake news. So they don't actually have to discuss the issues with the movie, the literal issues with The Last Jedi. Instead of having an actual argument with someone, a debate about the pros and cons of the film, I hear the same thing over and over again, the same fucking thing. You didn't get what you wanted. You want everything explained to you. You didn't understand what... I got this back when I made my Last Jedi series, the doesn't work thing. I got so many comments telling me, I can explain to you in thorough emails why Luke Skywalker's character is consistent with the OT. I could send you emails going into this or that. And I'd say, okay, send me that. And people sometimes would send me fucking essays on this shit, and it was all just hogwash. It was all just bullshit. It was all them just writing fan fiction, trying to fill in blanks, and just ignoring something that doesn't make sense. Like them following the ship and the fuel issues and why not use light speed to catch up. They just make this shit up to try to throw it in your face like, well, this is actually why it makes... And they're just saying that you're angry because you made a video criticizing it. I'm not angry. I don't have any hate in my heart for this. It's apathy, if anything. What upsets me is that you're being intellectually dishonest because you're a fucking fanboy and you're pissed off that Star Wars is getting shit on worse than it probably ever has. And I'm sorry that this is an issue for you because you're a baby. You're the one that needs to hear this is just a movie because you're not treating it like a movie. You're treating it like it's politics or a fucking religion. Well, pull the lightsaber out of your ass and actually have some clarity so maybe you can see straight for once in your life. I get that your eyes might be a little fuzzy because the lightsaber really hurts as it penetrated your butthole. But we'll figure this out. We'll get through this together. Anyway, 60 weeks, 60 box office addicts. Haven't missed a week in that entire time. Kudos to me. But okay, folks. All right, gang? We're going to have some Blue Apron. We're going to talk about some box office. We're going to break down the economic benefits of what's happening with the studios right now. We're going to do all this stuff. And I love you guys. All right? Okay? Oh, boy. All right. You could tell that I got a lot of rest last night. Yeah, I came home last night off work and just slept like a fucking baby. So I'm very well rested, needless to say. 1 second. Booyah. Booyah. But we'll talk a little bit about things. Don't forget to ask questions in the chat. I'm more than willing to answer things about certain movies and things that are going on and what's happening. Yeah, I've been thinking about doing a parody of the Patrick Williams video and doing it exactly the same. Like, set up a camera talking to... Probably not my parents, because my parents live pretty far away from where I'm at. But get somebody random and just try to explain why bad movies are great. And use all of the same shitty arguments that he used in that video. Where he complains that Thanos has humanity. No, I did not see that. But that's fine if he has an issue with that. Thanos is definitely colder elements of Thanos in the comic books as compared to what they did in Infinity War. But if you have a problem with that, that's fine. That's just a point of view. What's your opinion about Infinity War? I liked it a lot. Yeah, it did make female scientists look like a bunch of fucking idiots. Like, that's a problem. Ray and Egon were actually smart and said smart things. And Peter Venkman acted like the fool and was a con artist. But in the new Ghostbusters, all of the women came off like idiots. And it's like, yeah, I don't buy any of them as scientists. Which makes you not believe in the world and what's happening. That's one actually a great thing about Ghostbusters. You actually buy into the reality of this ridiculous premise in this comedy. Pat, do you have any advice for me? I just got my GF pregnant and I haven't told mine or hers pregnant. I'm 15. Jesus Christ. Why do people always come to me like I'm a fucking therapist or a counselor? I can't get a girlfriend. I'm thinking about killing myself. Like, when did Box Office Addict become some fucking NPR show? Welcome to Box Office Addicts. This is the show where I talk to you about your life problems and give you the best advice I possibly can. We'll get through this together. This is a hand-holding show where me, an expert in everything, can help you with all of your fucked up problems. Before that, though, let's listen to some smooth jazz music. I mean, holy shit, dude. What the fuck? What kind of... Like, I get this every week. People are like, you're a smart guy. You know about movies. You can help me out with my life. What the fuck am I... What advice? I don't know. Is abortion on the table? How do you feel about abortions? Morally. Let's get into that philosophical question, shall we? Alright. If you and her are both okay with that, you need to discuss that with your parents. One thing I would tell you is don't hold it back for them. If you're only 15 years old, you need to tell them this immediately. I mean fucking immediately. Like, stop listening to this fucking Box Office Addict. Immediately go to your parents and say, I got a girl pregnant. I'm 15 years old. What the fuck? Because I guarantee you that they're going to understand mentally how to handle this much better than you because you're 15 years old, okay? Your frontal lobe isn't even fully developed. Do not try to hide anything from them. That is ridiculous if you're at this age. If you're in your 20s, I wouldn't tell you what to do. But if you're 15 years old, please go seek the advice of people that are older than you, that have some life experience. Because any kind of decision you're going to make is probably going to be horrible because you have no perspective to make a rational decision. So please go tell your parents and figure it out with everybody. That's all you can do. Talk to adults and ask them their advice. And everybody needs to come to some kind of agreement that's logical or what makes everybody happy. And next time, use protection or pull out. I'm 28, never got a girl pregnant, so... I know people say it's very tough. It's not. Usually, it's just not being prepared and thinking about it. And I'm not trying to come down hard on you. I get you're in a shitty situation. But, dude... Psychology addict. I, a clinical psychologist. This has become Jordan Peterson. Am I live streaming opposite the High Council? What the fuck is going on? You know, I haven't heard from Jeff in like 2 months. I need to try to email him again. He's like, I want Pat back on the channel. And then he's here. Oh. Yeah, but Troll 2 is great, Bathory. This is good advice. I don't know if you're religious, but if you are, you should pray for wisdom. My parents once said that the 20s are when you think you get it, but a lot of stupid decisions. Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying to you, go talk to adults. You're way too young to be making these decisions. This is way too heavy of something for a 15-year-old. I'm just telling you that. I know 15-year-olds. I remember being 15 years old. You're fucking idiot when you're 15 years old. So don't try to keep some secret from people that I'm assuming are in their 30s or 40s or maybe even older that can give you better advice because they've at least been in some situations. We're talking about all sorts of things. I want Pat on all the channels I follow. Yeah, I want to go on every channel ever. I think I could go on any channel. I don't care if it's movies, politics, whatever. I'll just go on something. Hey, Pat, want to eat some beans? So you went from I got a girl pregnant and I'm 15 to you want to eat some beans. No, Alex, you weren't kidding. You sick fuck. On 9/11 of all days? How dare you? People died today. And you're making fun of getting a girl pregnant when you're 15? Bathory, mute this motherfucker. I'm not having this sick bullshit in my live stream. Yeah, why, Dragon, why were you talking in IR baboon speak? Relevant to his thing? Now you're talking about his dick? A 15-year-old's dick? Mute Dragon, by the way, too. He's a sick fucker. That alarm going off is just to warn everyone else in the chat how sick you fuckers are. Yes, mute Dragon right now for talking about his thing. You don't think I know what you're referring to, do you, Dragon? Thank you. Thank you, Bathory. No perverts in this chat. Not having it. This is a perv-free zone, my friends. Dragon, stop talking. Go sit in the corner and think about your life and the decisions you've made. If I see another fucking message from you, Dragon, I swear to God. I swear to God. Wait, Mundane Matt got thrown out of a church because he wouldn't have sex with a 15-year-old? Oh, yeah, sure you weren't talking about dicks. Yeah, you were talking about the thing from Fantastic Four? Come on now. Yeah, Shen, listen. Okay, you're Kunta Kinte right now, and I'm calling you Toby. Take your hits, call yourself Toby, and go back and pick the fucking continent until I need you again, alright? Happy fucking 9/11. Okay, you can unmute Alex. It's fine. I'm just kidding around. Silly me. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to watch that Medicare video, because that sounds fucking amazing. That sounds like pancakes with syrup filled with cocaine. Mundane Matt is so weird. He's just like every chubby internet weird guy who looks like him that is some fucking weird creeper like Andy Pighor. Okay, never trust these guys. If a guy looks like that and he's making internet videos, be immediately skeptical of everything that guy does or says about his life, okay? When he says I was going to pick boulders for my kid, that means he was probably going out looking at kiddie porn or something. Fuck Mundane Fat. In all seriousness, since when has It's Space Wizards a plausible excuse for shitty movies? I don't know. It's some argument that a baby would make. A baby going, "Baga go goo ba ba." And you go, "Shut up, baby." Pat, I got my sister's GF pregnant while cheating with my dad's ex-wife. I lost my job working in a sweatshop making condoms. Damn it, you retracted the message before I got done reading it, you fuck. Alright, Bathory, mute Eli. Why am I not surprised that Mundane Matt went to a Calvary chapel? I don't know. I'm shocked that Mundane Matt even can get up out of that chair and walk anywhere. He looks like somebody you would see at a Walmart, buying very suspicious items down aisles that you don't want to go down because he's there. I saw on Twitter you watched Patrick Williams' Last Jedi video. I take it you disagreed. Not only did I disagree, I laughed my ass off at how horrible it was. I mean, if you want to make a video defending The Last Jedi, that's perfectly fine, but holy goddamn. At least put a minimum amount of effort in, Jesus. It was like watching a guy literally crucify himself, like he had the hammer and nail and he was nailing his hands in, like as if Jesus went out of his way to get crucified. Pat, did you go to school for film screenwriting? I am aspiring. No, I never went to school for film screenwriting, and I think film school's a waste of time, and I hate film students. Just go buy books on film, watch essay videos, buy DVDs with commentaries, and essentially go make movies that you want to go make. Patrick Williams is not right, Will Stevenson, and I will point out all of the problems with his video which have already been debunked many times. There are a lot of points that you have made, Will, over several weeks that I have argued very well against, that you should know better right now. You should hold yourself to a higher standard and not fall in the shadow of stupid arguments that Patrick makes, that the film does things new, thus it's good. That's a bad argument, Will. The film did things that are new, and that's what I liked about it. You need to have a more substantive argument beyond that, or just discussing the hatred people have towards Kelly Marie transgender, or SJW's this, or that it didn't give people what they wanted. That's a bad argument. You can make a better argument than that. Don't let yourself make shitty arguments like that were argued against months ago and made fun of. You're intelligent, Will. You're a very good person. Please do not buy into the bullshit from Patrick Williams. That is a bad video. That video is going to get tore apart by several people. And you just need to be in the winning category. If you want to talk about why you like this movie, be better than that dumb piece of shit. It does them new and well. Yes, but saying a film does something new is not a good argument for why it's good. Do you not see? That is a very lazy, simplistic argument. You can make a better one, is what I'm telling you. Have higher standards. You're settling for a very poor point of view that doesn't actually counter-argue a lot of the things that are very in detail about things people have problems with in The Last Jedi. Which are logical inconsistencies with the lore, characterization, how things don't connect well from the previous film. Even just from a timeline standpoint, things don't make a lot of sense from the ending of Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. Those are arguments that are ignored by Patrick Williams' videos and a lot of other videos. You need to actually try to go in and find out why these things make sense, the specifics, the logic, the internal logic, instead of making broad generalizations that the film did something new. And then you're ignoring that the film actually does a lot of things that it just completely stole from other Star Wars films that isn't new. Rey and Pat in the fucking elevator isn't fucking new. Rey and Pat. Rey and Kylo in the elevator is straight up from Return of the Jedi. The throne room sequence is straight up riffing on Return of the Jedi, just with some adjustments. There's all sorts of stuff that was taken from other Star Wars films. Okay, you can't just praise the new and then ignore the other things that it's clearly taking from. If it's not iconography, it's situations. So you have to be intellectually consistent and try to find a good argument that actually makes sense, instead of just focusing on things that make you look good. It's cherry picking. Cherry picking's a really shitty way to make an argument for why you like or dislike something. Don't just cherry pick things that make your point of view sound good. You have to talk about the entire movie, scene by scene, every moment, and you have to accept some faults to also get some of the positives too. If you could acknowledge that there's problems with the movie, then maybe people would believe more of the things that you think are positive. But a lot of these positive Last Jedi videos that are saying it's the best one since Empire Strikes Back are acting like it's a faultless masterpiece, which immediately makes it seem like you have a bias. Fuck postmodernism, is my opinion on it. I'm a turkey. Well, you're a chicken, all right? You're a chicken. If somebody squeezed your neck, your head would pop off, and you would bounce around with your stupid little body, and it's pretty much like you don't even have a head already, because there's no brain up there. So you might as well just be a headless chicken. You fuck. Oh, his plot hole video was a plot hole itself. I'm starting to think that Patrick is just a satirist, and all of these videos are him trying to make fun of people who defend The Last Jedi. If that's what he's doing, it's fucking brilliant. Are you a James Gunn apologist? Are you an intellectual? I don't give a fuck about James Gunn one way or the other. He got fired. Who gives a shit? Where does all the hate for postmodernism come from? Jesus Christ, where do we begin? You are unblocked, Eli. I mean, the French intellectuals, which we would start with. Literature on postmodernism, where it started, how it affected art, our culture, our society. How it leads to nihilism. Watch some of David Stewart's videos on postmodernism. They're actually terrific discussing this. But postmodernism, I guess I'll have to make a video on this one day. Maybe me and David Stewart can do a live stream talking about it. But postmodernism has basically led us in many ways as an American society by the influence of it to where we're at with films and art. And not just that, but where we are from a societal standpoint. The overall feeling. It's contributed to the hopelessness. But it's a multifaceted equation. There's a lot of reasons, people, that technology contributes to this. Access to more information, connectivity with people leads to this. It's not just postmodernism, but hate for postmodernism is essentially coming up because people are starting to see the impact, the negative impact of postmodernism. That doesn't mean everything that's postmodern is bad, and that doesn't mean that all postmodernism doesn't work, like architecture or art or philosophy. That doesn't mean that it's all bad. It's just talking about the impact it's had on America, in particular over the last century. Or even not even, yeah, about a century, this century, but in the 90s, let's say from the 60s on. Oh, you'll be able to talk to Daddy all you want. I hope you have a good time seeing Mandy. That looks fucking awesome. My name is a killing word. Do you work in a field involving film? No, that is not my job. I have made movies. I've made 6 movies, all independent films. I have worked on music videos, short films, and movies of friends of mine or film students. And I have written many, many screenplays and done essay videos here on YouTube and written essays on film and stuff like that. That's about as far as I could say. I would say I'm a film buff, self-taught. I've had stuff in film festivals. I mean, but no, do I work in the industry? Right now, I can't legally talk about anything, but I am sort of connected to a project that may or may not be produced by a producer and be an actual film that gets made, but I cannot talk about it legally. But I could be involved with something right now. I'll just say that. I hypothetically could be working on something right now that's an actual project. But I can't honestly, I can't talk about it. Can I watch the movies? Maybe someday. Maybe someday I'll just live stream a couple of my movies and we'll watch them together. I don't know. You might have postmodern philosophy influencing you for maybe why you like certain aspects of Last Jedi, but that doesn't make it a negative. I mean, that doesn't mean you're wrong for enjoying things like that. Will you go and Coach Red Pill live stream? Well, I mean, he'd have to invite me on. You guys always ask me this. Would you go on this live stream? Yes, I would go on anyone's live stream. I don't give a shit. If anyone wanted me on a live stream or podcast they have, I would go on it. I don't care. If I didn't know anything about what they were talking about, I'd still go on. So yes. There's the sweet spot. I think the biggest problem people have had with postmodernism and everything is subjective stance it takes on what people would consider objective facts. Well, things are objective. There are objective facts, and that's the problem with some of that thinking, that everything is subjective. And literally everything, or even our perception of what we consider to be objective, is subjective. Like morality, let's say, all right? Morals are subjective, but subjectivity is objective. There's a whole Woody Allen scene in Love and Death where he argues with Diane Keaton about this that's very interesting. But the problem is that if we don't live in a world with logic and objectivity and things that we know are correct, then nothing makes sense. And I do not adhere to the fact that things don't make sense. I think that's stupid. I think it's outdated. I think it's interesting if you're making art, perhaps, but I think in living in a real reality in the actual world, I don't like this we're in a simulation bullshit, the Elon Musk kind of stuff. I don't think we're in a simulation. I think this is all just evolution, science, the universe's randomness and our existence, and that you die and the light goes off and that's it. And I think it's wonderful and beautiful and fascinating, and I think that the fact that it even happened that you exist and you get to interact with others is a fucking amazing thing. And I don't think it's meaningless, and I don't think that it's just a perception or anything like that. I think it's very real. I think it's very tangible. I think feelings and love and our connection with nature and other beings and existence is a wonderful, grand, beautiful thing that people underappreciate. That's better than any religion or any kind of artifice that you could get something from. And it's not like art doesn't help us with the pain of life. You know, it's a respite. I understand that art helps us bane the pain of life. Like, you bear the pain of life, not bane, but bear. You can, without a world of art, if human beings didn't create art, life would probably be pretty fucking miserable. The fact that we can distract ourselves for a little while and get out of our own heads is an absolutely beautiful thing, but we undervalue what's actually going on a little bit. And a lot of the time it's because somebody's more interested in philosophy or reading things that are fun, and instead of actually reading scientific journals and doing the hard science and getting into stuff that takes a long time to learn. And it's hard. It should be hard because it's very complex, well-researched stuff. But it'll actually make you more fulfilled in life, I find. I think that you'll actually be a lot happier in life if you can get over that hurdle and actually accept what you are biologically, your genetics, why human beings even exist. Because the greater question of, oh, why do we exist? That's the wrong question. We know why we exist. We know why we're here. It's actually very simple. It's just that simplicity, accepting it, is very upsetting. But let's use 9/11 as an example. It couldn't just be a few guys took over some planes and crashed buildings and that caused all these problems. There has to be a conspiracy theory behind it. It couldn't just be that this happened and it's so simple that somebody could be this crazy. It couldn't be that Lee Harvey Oswald just shot John F. Kennedy. There has to be something more to it. But really, most of the time, it's just because we can't fathom how fucked up things are that it's really that simple. That's just like, oh, it's just evolution. And us winning in the chaos of Earth over the last few thousand years, not even the millions and then billions of years, the billions of years of the universe, but just us existing a few thousand years by winning by honestly random happenstance, most of it probably. But accepting that, you know, you're basically just a program. You're basically just a collection of cells, and I mean, there's just so many things to go into that. But we'll get to the box office soon. I mean, I'm a pragmatist. I don't like bullshit. I used to be very much into philosophy. I used to be very much into, you know, we're all cosmic entities and there's a cosmic positivity that goes through the universe and connect. But it honestly doesn't make you happy. That just leads you to more depression and depression. It's better to accept the limitations and accept that maybe you are small, and that not that nothing matters and nothing else matters, but that the journey, and that you even get to exist mathematically, that you're even alive, and you get to live in certain parts of the world, and you get to do things like this, like I get to do this, is fucking amazing. Statistically, mathematically, it's fucking amazing. And you should be fucking happy that you just even get to live. Living, it turns out, is a pretty amazing thing. It's actually kind of a miracle. And that you even get to live now. This is easily the best time to live ever in the history of mankind. Yet a lot of us think it's the worst time to live. Which makes no sense. It's so much better to live now than ever. Oh, of course the Predator's getting... I mean, it just looks like shit. I was worried about it for a while. Iron Man 3 sucked. I think if Shane Black doesn't make a small film in certain genres like The Nice Guys, or write something like The Last Boy Scout or Lethal Weapon, it seems like he just can't do it. Every time he makes more of a blockbuster action film... because even Predator was a very small movie when you think back on it. He just doesn't seem to be able to do action scenes that well, or something with scale. I mean, it just seems to be an issue with him. Or maybe he's just lost his way over the last decade. I don't know. It's definitely not the same guy who made Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I don't know what the fuck happened to Shane Black. Yeah, everybody thinks the time they live in is the worst time. Yeah, it's very hard. This is what Midnight in Paris was all about. It's about a guy realizing that nostalgia, everything seems better 20 years later, but when you're actually living in the moment, when you're doing things in the moment, you always think it's the worst time or something's bad. Then you look back on the time and realize it was actually pretty good. But you don't realize it while it's happening. It's very tough for people to do that because we're always thinking too much about what's next and we're not actually being present in what we're doing right now. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it does look bad. And the reviews just reaffirm what I was worried about. Bad special effects, cheesy dialogue, bad shaky cams, everything I was worried about. Of course you love Iron Man 3, Will. Of course you do. Well, I don't know what Shane Black was thinking. And so, because Fred Decker worked in this, I was hoping it was going to be like Monster Squad with adults. That sounded fucking awesome. Like, oh, cool, we're going to get Monster Squad with the Predator? That sounds like the most badass movie ever made. Oh, by the way, let's get into this thing with Box Office Addict, right? I've been noticing there's been these Box Office Addicts that have a bunch of hits, and I was confused as to why. Why the fuck does episode 39 Rampage have 51,000 views? And then I was looking at the like to dislike ratio. 73 likes, 71 dislikes. Now, why the fuck did 71 people dislike this video? Why didn't I add 10,000 subscribers? What is going on here, right? And it isn't just this video. It's several Box Office Addict random ones that have like 30, 40,000 hits. Way more hits than they should have when you consider that my channel is only like 9,500 subscribers, right? So I went to go look at the Maze Runner 3. That's one that's a good example if we can get to it. Hold on. Come on, where is it? Maze Runner 3, 32,000 hits, 61 dislikes. Black Panther has 20,000 hits. Right? And if we go back to recent Box Office Addicts, hold on, takes a second to load. We're looking at Equalizer 2, 10,000. And I was very confused, like, why are these Box Office Addicts getting so many hits and all these dislikes? Well, I found out recently, just from reading comments, it's people who think that it's the movie, that I'm one of those channels that is uploading, doing one of those clickbaity things where it goes Rampage full movie, because all of these hits for Rampage just happened now when the Blu-ray was coming out. So they click on the video and they hear the music for the first 2 minutes, like those videos that say, you know, Maze Runner full movie, and they click on it and then it's just music for 2 hours because it's somebody trying to get you to watch the video with clickbait and try to get you to watch the ads. So people are clicking on these videos because of the thumbnail and the title that says the movie and thinking it's me uploading the movie, and they're saying I just want to watch the movie, and then they watch for a couple minutes. The average watch time on some of those videos is like 3 minutes, and then they click dislike because they think that I tried to upload, that I'm lying about uploading the movie, and then they dislike my fucking video without actually watching the live stream because they're mad, because apparently they thought a video called Box Office Addict episode 39, the number, and then the movie's title there meant that I uploaded the movie. Now, I would get their problem if it said Rampage full movie, right? You'll see videos like this. But the fact that these people think I'm doing that when it's clearly Box Office Addict like 51 is fucking ridiculous. Like, hold on. Oh, sorry. But you'll see these. Hold on, let's see. Oops. Like right here. Best new action movies, full movie English. Super action film, right? 1,900,000 views, right? 2 months ago, 9 months ago, right? People will do this stuff. They'll upload these videos that are clickbait, and they get like 200-something thousand hits, and people are like, oh wait, this is bullshit. You're just pretending that you uploaded a movie. And they'll fucking do that shit. And so, like, my Jumanji 2 Box Office Addict has 30,000 views. And I'm sitting there confused, like, how the fuck does this have 30,000 views and yet I didn't get a bunch of comments of people watching it? It's because people aren't actually watching the video. They're just clicking on it thinking it's the movie because they're stupid. Because they're fucking normies who don't know how the internet works and they think somebody actually uploaded a full movie onto fucking YouTube, which you would never be able to do because of copyright. And so it skews the views on Box Office Addict, making it look like, wow, he got 50,000 views. Yes, Bathory. You see, evil will always win because good is dumb. Yes, essentially. Yes, you used to be able to post a full movie on YouTube back in the day. When YouTube first started, it was incredible. You could watch entire seasons of television shows. You could watch any clip from stuff. You could watch all... I mean, it was amazing. I mean, the first few years of YouTube was badass. Like, you could watch anything. I remember just entering shit in and watching. I mean, I'd stay up all night watching shit. You could legitimately watch anything, for the most part. But nowadays on YouTube, it's definitely not that way. You can't just find everything. No, you can post a film that isn't in the public domain. I mean, that's in the public domain. You could post like a film that's aged like a lot of movies from the 40s or the 30s or something, or you can post a film that never really got distributed or isn't really owned by anyone. Yes, you can post a full movie like that. Like, you can watch Night of the Living Dead on YouTube for free. But a new Hollywood movie, no fucking way. Yeah, they think that you can watch a movie that just came out in theaters on YouTube, like somebody just uploaded. I mean, it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And it's not that you can't even watch movies on the internet when they're theater. People still upload DVD rips and screen recordings on websites on the internet, and you can still torrent them. It's just they're not on YouTube. So please, this is for future reference for anyone who wants to click on a Box Office Addict and then give me a dislike or say, oh, you lied, this isn't the full movie. I never presented it as such. And it's not my fault that you clicked on the video assuming that it was actually going to be the movie just because it's a 2-hour video or something. If you don't want to listen to the show, that's fine. If you don't like the show, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But don't pretend that I was presenting it as something it wasn't. That's bullshit. God, it sounds like I'm super angry this episode. I'm not, though. It just sounds that way. I think I'm just hyper. I don't know. Maybe it was that mountain of cocaine. Yeah, no, you can watch public domain films, and I do that a lot. I watch a lot of films that are public domain on YouTube. I take a lot of joy in that, but there's actually amazing films you can watch on YouTube. Like, I would say masterpieces. You can watch like 10 out of 10 movies on YouTube, and you're like, wow, that's crazy, this is on YouTube. But new movies, for the most part, no. I think if the director of Mandy and Beyond the Black Rainbow did Silent Hill reboot, that would probably be better than if a lot of other directors did it. I still don't think... The biggest problem with making a Silent Hill movie is that there's not a lot of... That story, the way it works in a video game, wouldn't really work well, I think, in a film. Maybe if a David Lynch made it and it was like Twin Peaks or something, but think how many times people try to do David Lynchian-esque stuff and it fails miserably. So I just think a Silent Hill movie is a bad idea. Because visually, that first film is really what works about it. It's just there's not really a story to translate well into a film from Silent Hill. I'm not saying in a video game. Silent Hill 2 story is great for a video game. But for a movie, that would be very difficult, because part of what makes it work is that it's so many hours long, and you go through so many things, and it's extensive. You know, a film usually is 2 hours. It would be hard to contain those things. You know, that's the problem. I believe, I mean, I may be wrong, but I believe you can watch His Girl Friday on YouTube. Howard Hawks film, amazing movie. I think you can watch Rome Open City by Rossellini. I think that film's on YouTube. I think there's some Fassbender films. I think there's a few great movies like that I found. I think there's some Hitchcock. I think Rebecca's even on YouTube for free. I'm pretty sure Rebecca's on YouTube. Alfred Hitchcock, and one of the best Gothic films ever made. Yeah, Jacob's Ladder, that's a fair point. Jacob's Ladder is about as close to a perfect Silent Hill movie as you could get, and it influenced Silent Hill. So yes, just watch Adrian Lynn's masterpiece, which should be on the Criterion Collection, Jacob's Ladder. One of my favorite movies ever. Jacob's Ladder is an amazing movie. Ruin Johnson is terrible at everything. What are your thoughts on horoscopes? That they're bullshit and they're completely fake, made up bullshit. Like, just like Aries or Cancer or any of that stuff. Just like astrology. I mean, it's bullshit. It's just random made up generalizations. It's like a fortune cookie that you could connect to anything. It's not science. It's not backed up by anything. It's people that are con artists essentially. Just like you know, just like you are going through a tough time with specific things in your life. It's just generalizations to make people feel like that's about me, and I'm shocked how many people buy into it. Even people that I know that are smart actually buy into this stuff, and it blows my mind because it's such clearly bullshit. There's a terrific Penn and Teller episode on it called on their show Bullshit, but I don't know how anyone could. I mean, not that it isn't fun and that you can't have joy with it, like tarot cards or something. It's fun. Or a cold reading. It's not like that stuff isn't fun, but it's bullshit. So that's my thought on it. Fun bullshit. If you don't take it seriously and actually think that it has some kind of way of knowing what's going on with your life or something like that, then it's perfectly fine. Oh, I'm glad you watched All About Eve, an amazing film that feels not dated at all. What the fuck is it? How good is All About Eve? I mean, am I right? Holy shit, some of the editing in that film for 1950, that the frame will just freeze while somebody narrates something. Like stuff that you would see in a movie from like Fight Club, editing techniques you would see in Fight Club or something. Right? Or films that came out later. I don't like Beyond the Black Rainbow, personally. I actually think it's very dull. Visually nice, very dull. But stuff you would see later in movies, that film's doing it. And the screenplay's still relevant to Hollywood. Trying to get ahead of life, what people do with each other. The dialogue's still fresh. The performances all still feel modern. That's what people talk about, oh, that old acting style. A lot of old movies don't have that. They don't have that dated, stagey feel. All About Eve doesn't feel dated at all. It feels just as relevant. It feels like it honestly could have been made like 5 years ago, you know, probably in color, and it still would have been a film that won Best Picture and was a hit. It is not held back at all by being an older movie. The cinematography, the way it's edited, incredibly modern editing techniques for its time. The screenplay, everything about it still is totally correct about the industry. And when people say, oh, movies are sexist towards women, there's never been strong female characters, and they praise people like, right, they've never seen All About Eve, where the female characters are amazingly fully realized. And they don't do it through just sexuality. They do it through... Psycho's completely aged well. Psycho isn't dated at all. Like, the characters in All About Eve, except for maybe Eve herself, but all the other characters, they're dominant women, they're strong women, they're witty, they're smart, they go against the men verbally. Because, of course, they can't fight the men physically. That's why it's stupid when Rey's beating up Kylo, right? Or other movies where it's physical. In those older films, they knew how to write women as strong women who knew how to persuade men get what they wanted by being feminine, by having sexuality on their side, by being intelligent, by having value. Not that they could kick a man's ass, that they could shut a man down, that they were fucking quick and sharp. And the movies in this dialogue are just, the fucking dialogue is spitfire. I mean, people forget this shit. They forget about movies with Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy. It's like when they talk about how they treated women in Hollywood movies, it's like they've never actually seen movies. Because in a lot of those classic Hollywood films, the women are so strong. They're so strong-willed. They're so intelligent. They're equal to the men. And many times they're superior to the men. And the actresses are not playing second fiddle to some guy. They're dominant performers and women, and it's sexier without showing nudity or using perverse language. It actually feels closer to what it's like when you're having a challenging, intense relationship with a woman if you're a man, and vice versa. It actually feels much truer to life and women that have value, that aren't just written as this a cartoonish version of what people think is female empowerment, because they don't want to actually write a strong character that happens to be a woman. They want to put a woman in this overwrought superhero-esque role and then get kudos points for it, saying I wrote a strong character, and forgetting that, like, Sarah Connor was a good character. that happened to be a woman, but that existed in the old Hollywood classics. They're not as dated as people think. They're, in many ways, they were actually on the right steps to something that would have been a lot more progressive than where movies are at now with, like, Ghostbusters. We actually, in a lot of ways, went backwards. It seems like in particular, screenwriters don't know how to write women anymore. They either write them as total cunts like Skylar in Breaking Bad, or they write them as stupid, or they try to write them like men. But a lot of those screenwriters back in the day that were playwrights, or they were in the early days of television, they really knew how to write women. And I think we need to go back to that, where women get dialogue that is equal to the men. You know, Quentin Tarantino's good at that. You know, Tarantino, he'll have a woman just be able to communicate with a man in the conversation and keep up with him. That's a good way to write a strong female character without pushing some feminist message. You just write a good character that's interesting that happens to be a woman. Well, thank you for doing that, sir. That's what surprised me about it. It feels relevant, and that script is perfect. Also, I love how everyone thinks Margot is hysterical, but she turns out to be right. I do too, Bathory. It's one of my favorite movies too. I mean, I should do a video on All About Eve. Is phenomenal. It's a phenomenal Hollywood movie. It's one of the best Best Picture winners. It totally feels relevant because it's really timeless in the way like a Shakespeare story would be. Because the themes and the way it's dealing with human nature and how we interact with each other and success, I think, are always going to be relevant. And it shows you the evil of women, which I always love in writing, is because we know what evil men are like, but evil men are usually physically dominating, or they are leaders. They are able to lead people to do horrible things, or the cruelty of men. But it'll show the subterfuge in All About Eve, or what women can do, how women can manipulate and get ahead and lie and deceive, and how they can trick people. I love that. That's something that's a lot of people seem to not know how to write anymore. We have gone backwards. I agree. Yeah. Well, what makes Ripley so good is her pragmatism. Is that Ripley's a woman who's athletic, smart, and she's pragmatic. And Sigourney Weaver based it off a friend of hers who was that way, in particular in the Aliens performance. When she says to Hicks, I think, when she's like, "I'm sick of your bullshit," she doesn't punch him in the face and kick his ass. She goes, "Listen, I'm really getting sick of your bullshit." Because he won't stop fucking whining like a little bitch. Nobody's able to talk and figure it out. And she's like, "Listen, I'm trying to figure this the fuck out. Shut the fuck..." It's one of the best moments in the whole fucking movie. It's so fucking brilliant in Aliens. "I'm sick of your bullshit." And she says it so matter of fact. She's like, "Let's get to the fucking point." And you completely buy her as a strong character that just happens to be a woman. A man or a woman could say that and it would totally be legitimate. Saying, "I'm sick and tired of your bullshit." All About Eve is fantastic, yes. I've been spending the last few minutes praising it. It's an incredible movie, and yes, the screenplay is definitely one of the best scripts. Kind of getting forgotten about by this generation. But I think they'd be surprised how entertaining it still is and how much it holds up. Time has not hurt that movie one bit. That's an amazingly performed movie. But it's really just how it's written and put together. I mean, it's a marvel of craftsmanship and themes being executed in a way where it's clear what the filmmakers and writers are trying to say to you, what the film's about, but doing it in a wonderfully entertaining and without the artsy pretentiousness that maybe some films have. It's really what you want Hollywood films to be. It's a perfect Hollywood movie. It's what you want Hollywood movies to be. It's what you hope they can be, like Singing in the Rain. And it gives you hope in why the studio system can be great. What a Hollywood movie actually can be is that it can be equal to some of the masterpieces of of art house films. It can be as good as those films, if not better, if done well. And you can go, "Oh yeah, this is what it's like to see a great movie, just a classic great movie. What a classic really is." I never found out what video made JonTron sub to me. My assumption would be that it was a patriarchy video when he politically was getting into more skeptic content, like when he debated Destiny. and he was watching videos, I'm assuming, about feminism, SJWs, and all that. And my guess is that I showed up on a recommended video from probably one of my videos that had a lot more views on it, like my Smugly Puff video. And so he probably was subbing to anti-SJW channels, and my channel came up. Because, I know he was watching stuff by other people that were bigger, and I'm assuming one of my bigger videos came up on the algorithm. He clicked on it, liked what I said, subscribed, and that was about it. And maybe he watched one video or two videos or something. I don't think he became a fan. I don't think he continues to watch my stuff. I don't even think he knows about my channel anymore. I think he probably sees Please Rewind and goes, what's that? And I think after the Destiny thing, he probably distanced himself from those things. When at that point, I think he was getting very obsessed with it. And he was also on that one stream with Sargon and all them talking about the PewDiePie situation. He was being very red-pilled. I think he might have caught one of my videos at that point. Because I did have a few videos that had over 100,000 hits. Like the Seth Rogen, Amy Schumer one. So my assumption is he watched one of those videos and then he subscribed to me. He did back off from politics, yes. How would you recommend introducing old classics to this new generation? Just showing them to them, explaining to them that they're not what they think they are, what their perception of them is wrong. Actually having them watch the movies. That's what happened to me. I didn't want to watch classics for years because I thought they're going to be boring. Movies evolved. And then you watch them and you're like, oh, God, this is like reading a great book. That's, these films are amazing. Like The Apartment or something. You're like, wow, this isn't dated at all. Or Sweet Smell of Success. And you're like, oh, this is fucking phenomenal. So essentially just letting them know that they're cool. That they're not these dated, stagey films that maybe they think they are. They're actually legitimately just great films that hold up. Like films, the great films from the 70s to the 80s or any time, and they're the blueprints to what makes a great film and why a lot of great films you like later from filmmakers that you may know more, like a Kubrick or a Scorsese or Spielberg, you'll see the origins of what they do so well in those movies and why they know how to make movies so well, because they studied those films. And if you study those films, you can find the origins of how to make good stuff too, how to tell a good story. What would take an animated film to win Best Picture? I don't know if it'll ever happen, to be quite frank with you. I don't know the answer to that. They did take time. Yeah, they definitely polished it. Well, you had to think the script had to matter more then, because they didn't have the special effects or the editing or stuff to trick. Most of those movies are people just in rooms talking to each other, and it's all around blocking and dialogue. It's like a play. So they really had to have a good screenplay to keep the audience engaged. Also, back then, they were very much into books. People were very well read. Do more in the theater because there was less content. So the writing really had to matter then to get people attracted to it. You kind of had to write a really good screenplay. You couldn't rely on certain tricks that we have now at our disposal. In particular, in that time in Hollywood, you really had to, that was what got people to go to the theater, was performances and movie stars. Limitations always make art better. I think that's just been proven time and time and again. The more limitations you have to force yourself to be creative and better, because you cannot rely on things that make things easier or smooth things out. And if you see in those films, the great ones at least, because there's a lot of bad movies from that time, when you see those films, you could tell that they really knew, like, shit, this has to matter. These scenes have to matter. This dialogue has to pop. We really have to work on this. Plus, that was just a great time of writers. That was a great time of novelists and playwrights and screenwriters. There's a lot of those screenplays were written by brilliant writers. I mean, that was the big difference back then too. It's just a lot of guys. It was a great time of writers. In general, not just Hollywood, across the board, there was just a lot of great writers working back then. Because literature and writing mattered a little bit more to people back then. Just like music had a cultural significance at one point in history, and it doesn't have as much now. Things change. Art forms change. What matters change. What people's interests and hobbies are change. Maybe we're just moving on from movies. Maybe we're just moving on from certain types of things, and new things are taking over. New crafts. I mean, that's just how that's how things work. Things don't stay one way. I mean, if, you know, film had its time, and we're probably moving on to something more long form. And in particular, people listening to things like this that can be really long. I think people are more into audio now, and maybe less visual, I think is where we're going. But I could be wrong. But people like immediacy now, too. Interest change. The world changes. No, we have not. Let's get to the box office. Okay, let's just talk about all the successful movies right now, okay? Equalizer 2, 101 million, just past the first film's 101 million domestically. 173 million worldwide, 192 for the first film. Should be able to pass the first film. Mamma Mia 2, 119 million domestic, hasn't reached the 144 of the first one. 377 million worldwide. First one made 609 million, but still on a $75 million budget, this is a huge success. Just another example there. Ant-Man and the Wasp, 214 million domestic, should be able to reach about 218, not more. 610 million worldwide, especially from that boost from China. Should be able to make 615 to 620 million worldwide. That's more than the first film's 519. I'm assuming the budget was like 150, 165 million. This is a success. Put the MCU over 4 billion just this year, which is huge. So major success there. You know, even though maybe it's a slight disappointment, right? Now we have bombs like Slender Man, you know, 29 million, 47 million worldwide, $10 million budget. When you include marketing and all, that's just not a great performance. Happy Time Murders, 20 mil domestic, 24 million worldwide on a $40 million budget. That's a bomb. But then Hotel Transylvania 3, third in this trilogy, 164 million domestic, almost close to the 169 that the sequel made, 497 million worldwide. The other two films made 358 and 473 respectively. So this film's going to make 500 million worldwide on an $80 million budget. Huge hit. Huge hit. Mile 22 is a bomb, of course. 35 million domestic, 53 million worldwide on a $50 million budget. That's with Peter Berg and Mark Wahlberg, who just seem to be making bombs post-Lone Survivor. But now let's look at Incredibles 2. 1.3 million this weekend. 604 million domestic. 1,177 million worldwide. It's just under Frozen as the highest grossing animated film of all time. This is a $200 million film. That's a huge, huge hit. That's easily going to make like $400, $500 million in net profit. God Bless the Broken Road made 1.3 million this weekend at 1,200 theaters. That's a bomb. Alpha, from the one of the Hughes brothers, Albert Hughes, is actually not doing horrible for the lack of marketing it had. This is a well-reviewed film, $51 million budget, 60 million worldwide. It's definitely a bomb, but it's actually doing decent when you consider that it really had no push. Black Klansman is Spike Lee's most successful film since Inside Man, and one of his most successful films in general. $15 million budget, 43 mil domestic, 66 million worldwide. I would say this film is broke even, if not made a profit, and could make 80 million or more. So this is Spike Lee's one of his most successful films. Like top 3 most financially successful films. You know, if you don't count his early films, which had really low budgets and made like 30 million, like something like Do the Right Thing, you know, made, you know, and then with home video, but still. Operation Finale, 2.8 million, 14.2 million domestic, $24 million budget. That's from Chris Wrights, the American Pie About a Boy director. That's not that great. Christopher Robin's been coming around. It's got a $75 million budget, but it's been holding really well the last few weeks. 92 mil domestic, 143 million worldwide from Mark Forster, the director of Finding Neverland. This should be able to make 100 million. I don't know where I end up worldwide. It did look like a big disappointment. I still think it's a disappointment. I think they probably thought this could make 150 million, but all things considered, this film's not, it's not like horrible. This isn't like a big flop. It's not a terrible performance. It's just really disappointing when you consider how well Disney's doing and how the other live action adaptations of films have been doing from Disney classics. But 35% drop, that's good. Mission Impossible Fallout, officially unadjusted for ticket price inflation, became the highest grossing film of the franchise and of Tom Cruise's career with its second week in China. 3.8 million this weekend, 44% drop in 2,300 theaters. $212 million domestically on a $178 million budget, $727 million worldwide. God damn, I said god damn. Let's look at Tom Cruise's filmography and his box office track record. His biggest film domestically, I guess, is War of the Worlds. 234 million, unadjusted for ticket price, obviously, yeah. So, but if we look adjusted, it's Top Gun, Rain Man, Mission Impossible 1 and 2, The Firm. You know, I mean, look at 354 million, 400, War of the Worlds, Few Good Men. These are all huge hits. Jerry Maguire, $300 million. Ghost Protocol, Interview with the Vampire, Rogue Nation. But Fallout, to be fair, is at number 13. When you consider how huge Tom Cruise's career is, that's really not that bad. But worldwide, once again, if you adjusted these for ticket price inflation, some of his other films would be like billion-dollar films. But still, the last 3 Mission Impossible films, Ghost Protocol made $485 million overseas, $209 million domestic, brought the franchise back in Cruise's career from Brad Bird. Rogue Nation, Christopher McQuarrie, $682 million, $195 million domestic, actually does better internationally than the previous film. Then this film comes out. Now, 212, better domestically, and 514 internationally. This film's now met all expectations. The expectation was on the high end, $700 million. It's now surpassed that. $750 million looks like a lock at this point. It should be able to, unadjusted, pass Mission Impossible 2's $215 million to become the highest grossing film of the franchise domestically. So I'd say this film's definitely broke even and made a profit at this point. Honestly, if the domestic numbers were a little bit better, if this franchise was just a little bit bigger in the States, like if it could have made $250 million like Ghost Protocol did when you adjusted, this would have been an $800 million worldwide movie. So this is a major success. That's a great international total. This is phenomenal all around for Paramount, for Tom Cruise, for this franchise. There should definitely be another Mission Impossible film. And since they've basically rebooted this franchise with the 4th film, now they have 3. I mean, look at this. This is just great numbers. You have 3 films that essentially made $700 million worldwide, and this film did plus. Now, Ghost Protocol would have made over $700 million when you adjust it, but this puts Tom Cruise total worldwide numbers at $10 billion worldwide. I know it says million, but that's just because it's that 58 million. This is $10 billion, which makes him one of the most successful stars in all of history. Like, he's in the top 5. And his top 3 films are the recent Mission Impossible films. So not only is this franchise back, and maybe it's not as big as Fast and the Furious or a certain Marvel franchise, this is still one of the most successful franchises out there. Tom Cruise is 56 years old. He's been playing this character for 22 years. Christopher McQuarrie came back. I just can't see how you can't say this is a total success. There was a little bit of a question with the opening weekend of 61 million. Is this slightly disappointing? Could this have been a little bit better, like 75, 80 million? And, you know, it wasn't holding great I mean, it held well every weekend, but it didn't look like it was going to make 250 million. But yeah, now with that final push from China and it making over $500 million foreign, with the critical acclaims, I'm probably going to get some Oscar nominations, I'm assuming, like technical ones. This is Tom Cruise, one of his best reviewed films and one of his most successful films. So this just shows you how crazy this summer's been. Fallout is a major, major hit. Good for everyone involved with that movie, quite frankly. I did like Brick. Brick is the one film I like from Rian Johnson. I don't know if I'm going to get to Patrick's video. This has gone a little longer than I was thinking. I might just do a separate live stream covering Patrick's video. Because I feel like that's going to take a long time to talk about that video. And I still have a lot of box office to cover. I was just checking the chat to see if I, oh, Looper's not that good at all. Looper's second half's awful. Nothing makes sense. Please rewind. Where's your character? Oh, where's my character? I've just been putting it down so you guys can see the numbers a little bit better. Actually, let me move him over just slightly. I've been keeping him down so you guys can see everything a little bit better. Okay, let's get to Searching, which is a surprisingly very reviewed film with John Cho. Critically acclaimed at this point. It's a thriller with technology, and it's just very well reviewed. 33 million worldwide. I don't imagine this was a big budget film. $6 million opening weekend, 14 million domestic. I mean, not a huge breakout hit like maybe it could have been, but it's certainly not a bomb. I mean, if this makes 60, 70 million worldwide, I'd say it's going to be a success. So good for that film. The Meg, another surprise major hit. WB is having a phenomenal year. $6 million this weekend, 42% drop. 131 million domestic, 132, 492 million worldwide on a $130 million budget. This was co-financed by a Chinese studio. China, this film's been doing huge. This film will make over 500 million worldwide. A film that a lot of people thought was going to be a bomb in America and be all in. A lot of people thought this was all going to be the money, this international number, and then maybe like 50 mil domestic. But it turns out this actually was well advertised and connected with mainstream audiences in America. And good for Jason Statham. You know, this is really like a big deal for him. Because outside of the Fast and Furious franchise, you know, and like a comedy like Spy, his career's kind of always been off and on. It seemed like at one point he was going to be a big star, but this really puts him back in the spotlight. This will make over 500 million worldwide. This is John Turtletop's most successful film, the director of Cool Runnings, the National Treasure films, Sorcerer's Apprentice, Phenomenon. So good for everyone involved, and this is huge for WB. Speaking of WB, let's talk about another major hit from them, Crazy Rich Asians, 13 million this weekend, 40% drop, which is the biggest drop so far. That's a steeper drop. I think a lot of that has to do with The Nun being such an overperformer. $30 million budget, 135 mil domestic. I think this puts into question that 180 mil domestic that it looked like this film was going to make, but still, with a $30 million budget, directed by John Chu, the director of the phenomenal Step Up 3D, 165 million worldwide. This should be able to make over 200 million worldwide. It should be able to make 150 mil domestic to 180 million. So this has already made a profit. I've said a lot about this film. It had great holds in its second and third weekend. 6% drop, 11%. This is the first time it's actually had a drop. But still, major success. Most successful rom-com in years, so big deal there. Peppermint had a surprisingly decent opening weekend. I'm shocked by this, a $25 million budget film. Maybe it's because Jennifer Garner's a bigger star than people give her credit for. Oh god, this is from that director, the guy who did the fucking From Paris with Love, who did the first Taken. The guy actually was a decent director a few years ago. Anyway, that's not a bad opening weekend. I mean, it's not great or anything, but honestly, all around, that's not as bad of an opening weekend as I thought this film would have. So good for it. Good for it. I did not see the second half of Crazy Rich Asians. I was told what happened with my girlfriend. Yes, I did see the Bunty King video where he admits he's a cuck and wants his GF to be his queen. I never know what's going on in Bunty King's head. I know what happens in the second half of Crazy Rich Asians. I have not seen it, but I know what happens. I was filled in. Oh, thank you for coming in, Robin Hood. I hope you have a good evening, sir. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, of course. Man, critics are so hypersensitive right now. Boy. Oh, we're doing Phantasm now? Yeah, I mean, the Meg might actually be a franchise when you think about it. Yeah, because they could do, like, Sci-Fi Channel stuff with it. So maybe the Meg's not going anywhere. Taken's actually not a lot like Death Wish now. Death Wish is, you know, after the rape and all that, he goes out and he's a vigilante and wants revenge. Taken is about a guy who's a retired spy, who's like a badass retired, and his daughter gets kidnapped by some traffickers, and so he basically goes rogue from the CIA and travels over there and uses his connections to find his daughter. They're very different movies. Although Liam Neeson's career has taken a Charles Bronson path in the last few years. That I would say is comparable, but I would say his films, they actually have a lot of differences. The first Taken I like a lot. Taken 2 sucked. Didn't even bother with Taken 3. The first Taken I liked a lot. I saw it opening weekends, that Super Bowl weekend. I was surprised how fun it was. It's not a perfect movie. The opening and ending are kind of bullshit, but him actually, once he answers that phone and says, "I'm going to find you and fucking kill you," and then he goes on that journey. It's a pretty awesome little like 75-minute action movie. And Liam Neeson's very intense in it. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Why Batman v Superman's great. Choose out Hudson, not Hicks. My bad. Yeah, Bill Paxton. Hicks is Michael Biehn character. Him and her get along. Yeah, Hudson. Yeah, my bad. Is it Hudson or is his name Houston? Hudson? I can't believe I can't remember Bill Paxton's name in fucking Aliens. Game over, man. Game over. Yeah, he just whines like a bitch in the whole second half of that movie. Oh, I'm a massive Charles Bronson fan. I mean, geez, Once Upon a Time in the West. Amazing. He doesn't talk in that movie at all, and he gives this incredible performance. That dude had a cold, dead stare, man. That stare could really cut through you. Why did Bronson look like an Eskimo? Yeah, Taken should have just been one film. It was just it's actually an argument of how a movie with a really simple premise is good. It's a very simple, straightforward story. It worked as a standalone, contained sort of thing. Did you know that Krot Discord drama was a front for incel David She-Rat to take vengeance on Lawrence Southern for not getting in his pants? No, I did not. I think I maybe have heard about that. Yes, I've seen Neon Demon. Oh yeah, Once Upon a Time in the West is great. Arguably Leone's best film. I mean, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, I think, is more entertaining in a lot of ways, and I definitely think Once Upon a Time in America at its best is an incredible film. But there's something about just the elegance of Once Upon a Time in the West that is just fucking perfection. I mean, it's just a fully realized work. It's one of the only westerns too I find kind of artsy. It's an amazing epic film. I mean, it's one of the great epics in a lot of ways. Yes, Nick Cage was a good actor. I don't know how anyone could say he wasn't. He's very good in Raising Arizona. He's very good in Moonstruck. He's very good in Wild at Heart. He was very good in his early career, Nicolas Cage. I think he was a great actor for a few years. He's in all those movies. He's very good. There was some weird point in the mid '90s, like around The Rock. He started to do this over the top acting that didn't tonally feel right. It's kind of in Face Off as well. I also like Patriots Day, but if you actually go back and look at Nick Cage's early career, like Peggy Sue Got Married and all that, he's a very good actor. And I think he's good in Kick-Ass, and I think he's good in I think Bad Lieutenant. I think he's been good in a lot of movies last few years. He's just, he's also been terrible in a lot of movies over the last, 10, 20 years. But, and mainly a lot had to do is he just started to take any role he could get because it turns out that he owed all this money to the IRS, and they took all of his shit. Nick Cage should have a net worth of, $300 million, and he's only worth, $20 million. Yeah, The Good, Man, and the Ugly probably is better. I mean, it's just great. But yeah, that's what kind of happened with Nick Cage, is that he owed all this money, so he just started taking one role after another. And I think he just got crazier. He was always a weird dude, but would have been nice to see him in a Quentin Tarantino movie when he was younger. He would have been good in Pulp Fiction. I mean, I know he was Fu Manchu in Grindhouse, Rob Zombie, where is my Mac? Ha ha ha. But he definitely when he was younger, I thought he was very good. I'd say I was just a Nick Cage fan. And I like over the top Nick Cage. I like stuff like Snake Eyes. I think Snake Eyes is fun as shit. And so don't get me wrong, I even do that thing he does in Gone in 60 Seconds where he does that thing with his fingers. It's the only scene I like. Yeah, I mean, I think you could make an argument Nick Cage is just as weird as Tom Cruise, just in a different way. Not fanatically religious, but I think just as crazy in a different way. I don't know if one's craziness outweighs the other. I'm very excited to see Mandy. I'm glad what I've been reading about it sounds awesome. He fights. He has a chainsaw fight with a guy. That's badass. I mean, we haven't had a good chainsaw fight since Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Yeah, actors are weird people. They're fake people. They're kind of crazy. They're people who can just make themselves cry on cue, and they pretend to be other people, and they do it well. I mean, I've always felt very uncomfortable around actors. I don't trust actors. Most people I've ever met who are actors make me very uncomfortable. They're necessary because they smooth out the roughness of filmmaking to where people aren't paying attention to the technical side. They can buy into a movie or a story because of actors. So they are completely essential, but they are, from my experience, actors are just, they're fucking weirdos. They're weirdos. You almost have to be a little weird. Not all actors. Jimmy Stewart obviously wasn't a weirdo. I'm not generalizing and say every Tom Hanks is definitely not a weird guy. Tom Hanks seems like a very normal, nice guy. But a lot of actors, yes. Hey, all right. Nice job, Hoth Rebel. Could Aiden Paladin be an actor? Maybe. I don't know. She could probably do something. I mean, I could see her doing something, yeah. She could probably cry on cue, and she has a nice voice. Her delivery is very nice. I don't know how good she is at, like, facial expression. A lot of acting, though, is being good with your eyes and facial expressions. I don't know about that with her, so. Oh, the audiobook to Disaster Artist. It honestly hurt that movie for me, listening to that audiobook for myself, because they cut so much out. And you could tell it was because Tommy didn't want that stuff in a movie. That movie should have been 2.5 hours and should have been like Boogie Nights. It should have been like, it could have been Boogie Nights. And there's Boogie Nights-esque moments, like the scene where he's naked. And it should have just had a better director. James Franco's not a good director. That handheld cinematography thing looks like shit. If that had been, like, directed by David Fincher, really, it should have been David Fincher or it could have been a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. That would have been a fucking amazing movie. Oh, De Niro's actually known as a stupid person. Rob De Niro's actually dumb. And I mean that with no insult. He can't remember lines. He can't actually read very well. He's not very well read. He's just a brilliant natural actor. But he's always it's kind of a thing. He doesn't talk a lot, and people think that's because he's zen and calm. He's actually just not that intelligent. And I know it's not harsh, but I've done a lot of research on Rob De Niro and a lot of that. He's just not a very, he wasn't well educated. It's not really his fault. It's how he grew up and was raised. He wasn't very well educated. But brilliant actor. I mean, you can't take that away from him. I hope it's good. I don't know if Halloween 2018 will be good. It's getting good reviews. That's awesome. I love Michael Biehn. His career should have been a lot better. It was fucking amazing. Yeah, she does carry drama with her. She doesn't seem to be able to avoid it. Her voice is one of her best assets, but yeah, I don't know what happened with it. Oh no, Tommy's completely scary in the book. In the book, one of the best things about it is that you actually start to get worried about Greg. Like, is Tommy gonna rape him or something? And Greg Sestero. I mean, it's one of those times I would totally tell someone the audiobook so much better than reading the book. I would tell nobody to buy the book, The Disaster Artist, and just get the audiobook. It's too good. Audiobooks are a different experience. It's kind of a memoir. But you listen to Greg Sestero's impression of Tommy is so fucking funny and emotional, and the detail he goes into. He tells Tommy's backstory, the stuff with them, the stuff like the football and the stuff that's in the movie about how they'd end up in the room. That stuff's so fleshed out in the book. It just should have been a longer movie. I mean, they really cut the balls off of it. It's not a bad movie, but what happened was James Franco's direction isn't that great. His performance is great. It's too short. Greg Sestero's not as much of the protagonist as he should be, like the stuff with Retro Puppet Master and all that. And they cut out a lot of the creepiness of Tommy. It's like that should have been a film that could have won Best Picture. That really could have been like a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes with like an 8.6 out. I mean, that could have been a masterpiece. That book is so good. It's like a mix of Ed Wood and Sunset Boulevard, which was what Greg Sestero was influenced by. It's very Sunset Boulevard, with William Holden's character living with her and kind of being trapped, wanting to be successful, and her being crazy and being obsessed with him, and it leading to these dark places. It's very much, but it's also like Ed Wood with being happy with failure and this cult following. They even ruined the ending at the ending of the room of the movie. Like, everyone laughs and then Tommy accepts it that first night. That even sucks. Like, the book covers it like it takes a long time for the room to catch on. The first screening goes horrible. And the stuff with what the actress goes through. But Greg's reading the audiobook is phenomenal. He's actually he does such a good job reading it, and his Tommy voice is the best impression I've ever heard of Tommy. It's the most emotional I've ever heard of Tommy, and the stories he tells in that book are fucking. I mean, I was blown away by that audio book because I had read the book and I liked it a lot, but then I got that audio book and I'm like, oh my god! I mean, it's laugh out loud funny. Oh yeah, David Gordon Green. Yeah, he did a bunch of like I mean George Washington and Snow Angels and stuff. I've never actually been a big David Gordon Green fan. He has an interesting filmmaking style where he kind of mixes hyper stylized stuff with very restrained indie film stuff. Like he mixes the two together really well. But I think Jody Hill does it better. My favorite stuff David Gordon Green's ever done is Eastbound and Down and Vice Principals, the stuff he did with Jody Hill. Like he directed the second season of Vice Principals. That's my favorite. Whenever he does that stuff, I think he's great. Like those insane asshole comedies. But I'm not too much of a fan of his more dramatic work. He certainly has talent, but I don't think he's this genius people make him out to be. George Washington's all right. Yeah, that's decent. Yes, I've seen Look Who's Knocking at My Door. What if Nicolas Cage played Tommy Wiseau? James Franco's performance was fine. I had no problem with his performance. I just don't think it was very well. I think they just cut so much out that was good, and I think it kind of made it more of like a generic comedy when it could have been a drama, comedy, a horror film. I mean, that's what's so great about that. It should have been more like Sunset Boulevard. It really needed that Scorsese-like polish in the filmmaking. It really just, James Franco wasn't capable of doing it. He had a great story, and that stuff still comes across really well. It's just the filmmaking it's just really not that great. Would David Fincher's Disaster Artist still be funny? Yes, it would be, completely. David Fincher makes very funny movies. Gone Girl was hilarious, and Fight Club is hilarious. David Fincher would be the perfect director for that. And Social Network has a bunch of laugh out loud funny scenes, so yes. Anyone who thinks David Fincher can't do comedy, I do not understand what they have seen. David Fincher's made several laugh out loud funny movies. I much prefer Call Me By Your Name to Moonlight. I do not like Moonlight. Moonlight sucks. Yeah, no, Eastbound and Down's phenomenal. Yeah, and David Gordon Green directed. That's my favorite thing he's ever done. Yes, but David Fincher's Disaster Artist would definitely still be funny. I mean, the recent trailer for Halloween 2, the recent trailer for the new Halloween was good. There's that tracking shot with Michael. I mean, that is good. I much preferred that trailer to the first one. So, you know, I'm more excited now than I was. It does look good. His career, he's upset about his career, that he didn't have a better career after he had that great run in the 80s and early 90s, that he kind of became like a... Yeah, Moonlight just sucks. It has no story. The first 30 minutes is decent. The second half is nothing. I don't know. I mean, nice cinematography, but yeah, that film... probably, I mean, I'm a fan of Steve McQueen. I really liked all three of his I liked his other films. Hunger and Shame and 12 Years a Slave, I think, are all really good. David Fincher would have been perfect for Death Note, quite frankly. I honestly can't think of a better. Maybe Chan-Woo Park or something. Park Chan-Woo or whatever you want to call it. But he's honestly just South Korea's David Fincher. But maybe a South Korean director. But yeah, if we're talking American director, yeah, David Fincher. Just what if he would have done with Ryuk. And he would have done the morality of Light Yagami so much better. I mean, that would have been... I mean, really, Death Note could have been a $300-400 million blockbuster film that might have even got a couple Oscars. They really fucked up with that. I don't know what they were thinking with Death Note getting Adam Wingard, and that they even let that movie be made the way it was. Yeah, Death Note could have been such a... I mean, it's basically a blockbuster waiting to happen. Moonlight's extremely overrated. I mean, it blows my mind how many masterpiece reviews they got. Oh, that's upsetting to hear. I didn't know that about Michael Biehn. I didn't. Is it Michael Biehn or Michael Biehn? I always said Michael Biehn. He was such a good-looking guy too. He was a really handsome guy. Very handsome Kyle Reese and then Tombstone and all that, and The Abyss. Netflix does have no quality control. That's very true. That's a great point. Has there ever been an animated film besides Beauty and the Beast that deserved Best Picture? Yes, Spirited Away. The Iron Giant, I think you could argue deserved Best Picture. Fantasia probably deserved Best Picture. The Incredibles, I think you could make a good argument for deserved Best Picture the year it came out. Finding Nemo. Wall-E. You know, there's been some I think you could argue deserved Best Picture. Maybe even Toy Story in 1995 probably should have won Best Picture just because how significant it was. I mean, in a lot of ways, that film was groundbreaking the same way Star Wars was when you think about its impact on, and it's one of the best reviewed animated films ever. Toy Story's got like 9 or 10s across the board. It's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was a huge hit. It kicked off Pixar. Is that a better movie than Braveheart? I think you could say yeah. So probably Toy Story would be my best answer if you just talk about significance, how groundbreaking it was, and how that should have been, if there was a film that was so and is really looked back on as a classic, and as something that's so relevant, you know, then I would say Toy Story is probably the number one, where it's like, yeah, they probably, in retrospect, probably should have even given Toy Story Best Picture. Yeah, I love Three Billboards. I think Three Billboards, that was my second favorite film last year behind Good Time. Three Billboards to me is on par with Fargo or No Country for Old Men. I love it. I don't think it's overrated at all. Yeah, I think it's almost a masterpiece. It's not quite a masterpiece. I really hate I never got to record what me and Blood Money said. Blood Money came back from the theater after seeing that movie right after I saw the movie. And we had this like 2-hour conversation about the film. And the review that we gave, I heard nobody else gave for that movie. We broke down the meta stuff, the humor, the Southern Gothic influence, stuff that I heard no other critic in person point out. I mean, legitimately, and we had this amazing 2-hour conversation that was so spontaneous because we both felt weird for how much we loved it. We wanted to know if the other one felt the same way the other guy did with some of the arcs and things people had problems with. Like the Sam Rockwell thing, and then we talked to each other and we're like, shit, we feel the exact same way. It was this amazing conversation. Good Time's awesome. I love Good Time. But that conversation with Blood, we'll never be able to get it back. That was what Real Discussions was going to be about, was that we were just going to talk about movies that we'd both seen and not discussed, like Shape of Water and Good Time, Phantom Thread. Yeah, I didn't find anything cliche about Three Billboards, actually. I felt like, if anything, he was acknowledging the cliches, and that was part of the brilliance in the screenplay. That was actually a good use of subversion and playing with those things. Him using things that are cliches in stories and actually making fun of them existing. Like, I hope you get raped. You know, I hope I get raped. That's so hilarious. That's a laugh out loud funny moment in the fucking movie. I mean, that movie's such a funny dark comedy. Sam Rockwell's reading the letter with the headphones on. He's like, I know you want to be a detective. You're observant while there's a fire behind him and he doesn't realize the building's on fire. That's fucking hilarious. That's so funny. That shit the Coen brothers used to do so well. No, I don't like Mother. How would David Fincher have approached Ryuk as well as more of the crazy funny moments of Death Note? I think he would have toned down the comedic elements. I think he would have done Ryuk as probably CGI. Really, really good CGI because he's David fucking Fincher. I mean, Kaguya didn't win, did it? I don't think Princess Kaguya won, did it? Oh, you saying should have never won. Yeah, no, Big Hero 6 fucking sucks. That would be so overrated. Asao Takahata. I like Only Yesterday a little bit more, personally. We want to do a podcast. I mean, I'm not lying when I say the conversations we've had. Some of the things we've talked about have been amazing, and we hate it. We didn't record. It was like, fuck, we should have recorded that. That was brilliant. We had this one conversation about Fanny and Alexander that was so fucking good. And there was just things like that occasionally. We had this one night where we just talked about David Lynch. And we talked about specific things David Lynch had made. And we talked about River's Edge and that director and how he directed some Twin Peaks episodes and stuff like that. And there's been some nights where it's been like, this is amazing. And we didn't record any of it. Only Yesterday is one of those movies where if it was live action, it would be just as good. Those are some of my favorite animated films. Is Only Yesterday, if that was a live action film made by a director, none of it was animated, it would be a masterpiece. It would just be a masterpiece. It just happens to be animated. I love animated films like that because they show how an animated film can just be great, just like a normal dramatic film. There's nothing about Only Yesterday that needs to be animated. It's just a great screenplay, the way it's edited and all that. It just happens to be animated. But it's a little gem of a movie, really. It's really a great film. I'm glad it got re-released and people paid attention to it again. It's so good. I don't know who should play Light Yagami, to be honest with you. Nobody comes to mind. I mean, if he was younger, Paul Dano. Because there's that scene in Ruby Sparks where he's behind the typewriter. And he goes, I can make you do whatever I want. And it's fucking scary, and it feels like the movie's about to become a horror film. By the way, I love Ruby Sparks, but I made a video on it. So Paul Dano, when he was younger, I think would have been a great Light, but I think he's too old for it now. So I can't think of someone off the top of my head, quite frankly. But Paul Dano in his 20s, fuck yeah. Maybe I'll do that. Yeah, no, it is emotional. It's very well, it's not sentimental. That's what makes Only Yesterday work so well. Is that it's not... It's more like a Ozu film or something. Timothy Chalamet, that's a good choice. That's a good choice. I'll give you Timothy Chalamet's a good choice. That favorite dystopian novel. Shit, where do you begin with that one? Only Yesterday is just like true to life. I mean, it's just really true to life. In perspective, looking back and seeing... And what I love is she's older and she's actually finding love now. And she's going back to her past and kind of thinking about, like, looking back with an adult view and being like, did I see these things right? And it's honestly one of the better films I've seen about childhood. I think Dane DeHaan's been bad in movies like Spider-Man 2 and some other movies, but he was really good in Chronicle and some other movies. He certainly hasn't been as good, though, as the promise he showed in his early work. I don't really think he's had the right material. Pat, do you have a list of recommendations from the video store? Well, I don't know what you mean specifically. There is no Studio Ghibli film that I dislike, so... actually, I take that back. There's a couple. The adaptation of Earthsea by his son, I think, is really bad, even though the Earthsea novels are great. Big fan. I don't like that movie, Tales from Earthsea. And I'm not the biggest fan of My Neighbor Totoro, but I don't dislike My Neighbor Totoro, even though a lot of people consider it a masterpiece. I don't. Outside of that, I can't think of any Ghibli film I dislike. I like almost all of their movies. I think all of them are good to great. So... I want to make that podcast happen. We've had a lot of ideas for podcasts. One podcast I was idea, we just pick a random movie on Netflix and we watch it together. Another one was we discuss movies that we haven't seen. Another one was we just discuss directors and genres. I like Nick. I more like the movie Leaving Las Vegas than Nick Cage in it. I think he kind of overdoes his performance as an alcoholic in that movie. But the movie itself, Leaving Las Vegas, and Elizabeth Shue's performance, I think is great. I actually love Leaving Las Vegas, the movie. I just think Nick Cage goes a little bit over the top in it. Or at least it's written that way, not even really his performance. But the movie itself I like a lot. I think it's a very underrated movie now. Just the idea, too, a guy goes to kill himself in Las Vegas and drink himself to death, and he befriends a prostitute. I love movies like that. It's like what Pretty Woman should have been, you know? What a Midnight Cowboy-esque kind of thing. Great little... That seems with her when she gets raped by the retarded guy and his friends are filmed. That's so fucked up. But I liked fucked up things. Yeah, Ghibli's great. I don't like the third act of Howl's Moving Castle because it becomes a fucking clusterfuck. The whole, like, last 30 minutes is retarded. But the first 2 acts of that movie, I love. I love the third act's just ridiculous. Everything goes out the window. It's like... for me, it's definitely, like, Spirited Away, Kiki's Delivery Service, Castle in the Sky, Only Yesterday... Princess Mononoke, Porco Rosso, those movies I think are all classic. Whisper of the Heart, an amazing movie. Yeah, obviously Grave of the Fireflies, Nausicaa would be up there, but Nausicaa's technically not a Ghibli film, so. I also like Howl's Moving Castle. Nausicaa's not technically a Ghibli film, though. But I would have Nausicaa up there. Nausicaa is an amazing movie. We know really has the most disappointing career out of any of those guys is Katsuhiro Otomo. Because Akira is such an amazing technical achievement, and it still holds up in that regard. And and some of the films he did before that he worked on, like Neo Tokyo or Robot Carnival, are still... I think he worked on Robot Carnival. They're still really interesting to go back and look at, but his career post that is so disappointing. Like, Katsuhiro Otomo really should have had a better career. That's the one that upsets me more than anyone. I think he could have had a Miyazaki-esque career, like, because there's Sato Kon, and he had a great career, and Miyazaki, and Keiko Anno, and Takahata. They all had great, but really all Otomo has is Akira. That's really all he has. That's, like, as far as films go and stuff like that. I wish it was based on a Barry Manilow song. I don't think A Cure for Wellness is underrated, personally. I think a beautiful movie, but I do think it's not very good. It looked great. I was very excited for it. It looked like the BioShock movie he wanted to make. It looked gorgeous. I loved the premise of the movie, and then I went to go see it, and I was like, this is fucking boring the shit out of me. I thought A Cure for Wellness was going to be great, though. I mean, I can say that. I was very excited for them. I like Gore Verbinski. I think Mouse Hunt's a very underrated comedy. I think it's amazing. The first Pirates film's very good. Rango is one of my favorite animated films of the last 20 years. So, I don't dislike Gore Verbinski. I think he's a very talented filmmaker. But I was very disappointed in that movie. I mean, it's not like a horrible movie. I don't think it's like a terrible film. Don't go changing. It's Billy Joel. To try and please me. You never let me down before. It don't matter. I just need someone that I can talk to. I love you just the way you are. Akira is indeed, yes, it is a technical masterpiece. It's also one of the best stoner movies or, like, psychedelic films ever. That's definitely one of the best films to watch when you're fucked up. Yeah, no, the whole ending when he turns into Blob is such an insane fucking... I mean, really, it's just a technical marvel. That could be a silent film and it would be worthy of all of its attention. Because it's just, there's not really anything like it. That amount of detail is just fucking amazing. The meticulous. But it's not just being meticulous. That would be one thing. It's the creativity of the ideas visually that are in Akira. The ideas he has to, like, come up with those things is what's really brilliant. Because meticulous animation, we've seen that. But it's actually, like, his imagination, Otomo's imagination, that makes you go, like, wow, that's a really great vision you have. For how to even come up with some of these things is insane. I definitely don't like the characters' faces and how their foreheads are and shit, but that does not matter. I mean, that scene where Tetsuo flies up from the ground and goes up into space. It's like a fucking Stanley Kubrick moment. I mean, it really is. It's like 2001. Everything's silent, and he's standing on the like laser cannon thing, and he's walking on it, and it's that wide shot. That's an amazing moment. That's so fucking amazing. And then he just smashes through it, and it's all silent. That's incredible. You don't see shit like that in most animated movies. That's so smart that he did that, like, to make it, because back then a lot of space movies, they didn't have that silence like what Kubrick did in 2001. That was one of the big things that made 2001 so great. And or what I like about, like, in Gravity, I like the silence. That Tetsuo going up with the blue beam around him, and then it's that great shot. I mean, that's incredible, just from a filmmaking standpoint. To the way he frames that shot and does it from an audio standpoint is really impressive. He was a good filmmaker. He really understood visual storytelling, the language, how to convey things. Akira's just aged with me great. I first saw it when I was 12 or 13. It just freaked me the fuck out, and it disturbed me. Trust me, talking about the movie doesn't spoil that manga at all. Akira's like the manga's way longer and way different from the movie. They're very different. In fact, I don't like the manga, quite frankly. But yeah, Akira, when I didn't like it when I was like 13, it freaked me out too much. Then I saw it again at 15. I liked it a little bit more, but I didn't really. I thought it was just, I don't know. I thought it was lame. I thought it was all like visual, and then I watched it again at like 16, 17. I really liked it. Then I watched it a lot, like 6, 7 times. Then in my early 20s, I just kind of felt. Honestly, it's one of those movies that gets better for me every time I see it. I watch it now, and I just think it's great. The stuff that I didn't used to like about it, I like a lot, and I understand the ending. Because a lot of people, for some reason, seem confused about the ending. I did when I was like 12 or 13. I totally understand the ending of Akira and what happens with Tetsuo. I don't think it feels rushed and stuff. I don't agree with that. I know that's a lot of people who like the manga and are anime fans say that about the film, that it feels rushed. I completely disagree with that. The more I've watched it, I find that to be completely untrue. I don't think Akira feels rushed at all. What's brilliant about it is that it's so epic in 2 hours, and how it covers the apocalyptic and what Japan deals with nuclear and a post-nuclear, after the nuclear bombs. And I would like Ghost in the Shell more if it wasn't 82 minutes. I think it's a little too short to flesh out its ideas, and I think they get to the third act way too fast with the puppet master. I think Ghost in the Shell is really good, but I feel like it just gets to its third act too quickly. It's always bothered me about that. That should be a 2-hour movie. I've always felt the way about Ghost in the Shell. It feels like its plot doesn't get fleshed out enough to get to the ending with the I love the ending of the movie too. I think the third act's great. I just wish I got to know Bato and all that stuff. I really like Ghost in the Shell. It just always feels like it ends too quickly. I feel like we get to the ending way too quick. Every time I watch that movie, you start and it's got a great first act, and then the second act's pretty decent, and then it's at the ending. Like, you get to the last half hour, and you're like, oh. It always feels like there's like 20, 30 minutes of story missing for me with that film. And I just don't think it's as ambitious and epic as Akira. I think Akira has some of the most epic stuff that's ever been in a movie. Like, scale-wise, from a pure scale standpoint. I think once Tetsuo goes on his rampage in the second half is huge. Yeah, I know. I love Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell is great. I'm not saying it's bad, but it is. It's just too fast-paced. It doesn't really have good pace with developing its story. It feels like we get to the Puppet Master reveal way too quickly. I think that stuff needs I think we need a little bit more time to flesh out the characters and them trying to find out what's going on and all that. It sucks because it's really well done. I mean, basically what I think the film is saying, that there is no ghost in the shell, that you don't have a soul, and transcendence is going to come through technology, which I think is an awesome message. I think that's a really cool fucking science fiction story. Or there is no ghost in the machine if you're going to the original. But the idea is, I think that's what is being said at the end of that movie. But Akira, what's so, I think, amazing is it really captures, I think, better than any movie, what Japan feels with nuclear war, and or what happened to them, and as a society, their fear of it repeating itself, but also the damage that it's done permanently to their culture. But it's also got this, teenage, got this almost like City of God, teenage gang thing, Mad Max mixed with some Blade Runner aesthetics, mixed with apocalyptic films, mixed with political, corporate espionage. It's just such a mix of all these wonderful little things, and it's held together by its visual coherence. And just some awesome fucking action and even the stuff that's bad about it, this cheesy, like, he's our friend, if someone's gonna kill him, it's gonna be us, or Tatsuo Okada. That stuff's so iconic, and even though, like, it's awesome, that stuff shouldn't work, and it's awesome. As time going on, that stuff's just badass. I like a lot of Little Miss Sunshine. I don't love it. I like Paul Dano and Steve Carell in it a lot. But Ghost in the Shell and Akira are both good. I mean, it's an apples and oranges thing. They're really not that similar, so. White Steve McQueen. I disagree. I don't think Ghost in the Shell is better than Blade Runner, personally. In fact, it stole a scene from Blade Runner, and that kind of pisses me off. It's not even an homage, it's just a ripoff. The scene with the photograph. Oh yeah, I can't deal with Kyrie's death. That fucking drives me nuts. Bathory, you are so fucking right. I had this conversation with Sharkfoot. We talked about what do we dislike about Akira the most, and we both agree it was her fucking death at the end. Because it's just so cruel, and it's just put in there, and it doesn't thematically feel right. Because the whole idea is like, let's take the most innocent character and give her the most cruel, fucked up death. It's like this completely bleak, nihilistic thing at the fucking end of the movie, and I really don't think the subtext, it really works that well. It's just there to say, let's take the most innocent person and give them the most cruel death. Let's have that. That's all it feels like. It feels almost like a gimmick, where a lot of the things in the movie don't feel like gimmicks. Like, even when they get attacked by the gang and they punch her in the face or rip her shirt, that doesn't feel like a gimmick. Her death feels gimmicky, and it's just too cruel. I feel her dying inside me. She's dying. No, it's one of the most fucked up things I've ever seen in a movie. And when you see her die, it's like, oh my god, what a horrible way to die. And she just wanted to help him. I had that same conversation with Sharkfoot. That's so crazy. We talked about that. Like, yeah, that's my one big issue with Akira. I don't like that. I've seen it so many times, and I can't. It's not that because it's fucked up that bothers me. Yeah, but it rips it off. Do you not see, like, that is kind of a problem, that it's a rip-off? I mean, it's the same scene. That's a big problem for me. They just took that from Blade Runner. I'm not saying the rest of Ghost in the Shell took from Blade Runner, but that is a ripoff. That's like taking something that was in a screenplay that somebody wrote in a movie and you just steal it. That's stealing. That's straight up plagiarism. It's the exact same thing with the photograph and the memory and them explaining it. They just stole it. That really always irked me about that scene in Ghost in the Shell. The rest of the movie doesn't have that, but that always bothered me. It was like, hey, fuck that. That's bullshit. I'm okay with homage. That's not homage. That's just stealing. It's just stealing a straight up scene. It wouldn't bother me if it wasn't so similar, but it's exactly the same. How it's executed in the film, its purpose, the memory. I mean, that always irked me. Yeah, it's a needless death scene. Yeah, I don't mind her even dying. I don't mind her dying. It's just the way it's done is like, oh my god. I think Godzilla King of Monsters is going to be okay. What about Batman at 1989, though? No, I like the gang violence stuff that's in there that's like Clockwork Orange and the Warriors. I agree with you. I think that stuff's badass in Akira. I don't think her death's like that. I would much prefer more of the Warriors. Clockwork Orange. I agree. I think that would be badass. I don't think that's what Ghost in the Shell's doing at all. I think he just stole the scene. I don't think he's thinking, I'm going to show them how to do this. I think that's just you projecting onto that. I think he just thought it was a cool idea in Blade Runner, and I think he probably loved Blade Runner. And so he just took that from Blade Runner. thinking it was like an homage to it. I don't think it was any kind of, I'm going to show them how to do I'm going to show Ridley Scott how to do this better. I don't think that was the intention of that scene at all. Also, I don't think it does it better. I don't know how you can honestly say it does it better. We don't even know that character in Ghost in the Shell with the photograph. He's just some random guy, really. And that scene's like an interrogation room. You compare that to the scene with Rachel going to talk to Deckard with the photos and her talking to him. That's a much better scene from a writing and emotional standpoint. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Now that I actually think about it, like in Ghost in the Shell, it's almost so clinical. Like it's just to add another element to a movie that is about many more things. But in Blade Runner, it's fundamental to the movie is the thing with the with him making like the unicorn and all that, and the photographs, and when Deckard's telling her like and he's telling her memories from his childhood. That's a great scene. It's like an old noir movie, and they're in the apartment, and he goes, "When you were a kid, you used to go look at Spider, and you killed the spider, and you felt bad about it." That's one of the best scenes in Blade Runner. I would say that scene in Ghost in the Shell is not one of the best scenes in Ghost in the Shell. You compare that to like the skin suit chase sequence, the ending with the puppet master, all that stuff's the best stuff in Ghost in the Shell. But the photograph scene in Blade Runner is actually one of the best scenes, and the acting between those two is great. And it's just more emotional because then Deckard starts to think, are my memories real? Are my memories actually real? I also don't think 2049 is better than the original. I think it's on par with it for the first two acts, and then the third act it completely falls apart. I definitely think the first two acts of Blade Runner 2049 are great. They really are, and it's visual storytelling. But the third act I think is pretty bad. It's almost Force Awakenish for me. But the first two acts are great when it's just... In fact, I would make the argument, and I've said this, that movie would be much better if Deckard wasn't in it. It wasn't a sequel to Blade Runner in that sense. It was just about Kay. And it was just his story, and it was in the future, and it was his own story. It had nothing to... Maybe they mentioned Deckard. I actually think bringing Rachel, Deckard, all that shit back, the baby, was all horrible. It really hurt Blade Runner for me. But all the stuff with Kay finding out about his life and finding out those memories, I think that stuff's amazing. I love it's an incredible movie for like an hour and 30 minutes. I think it's an amazing movie. I still love that movie. But as a sequel, the stuff it brings back, I think all that stuff doesn't work. I think Deckard coming back doesn't work. I don't think the stuff with Rachel works. I don't think the villain works. I think all the stuff with Kay, though, Ryan Gosling's... I think Rob Egger did a great video edit explaining that the stuff with Kay and Ryan... And, and her, the Joe thing, and you finding out that she was just saying that stuff's great. That's the stuff that really works about that movie. And I would have just preferred that movie about this guy finding out that he really didn't matter, instead of the stuff that connects it to the first Blade Runner. That stuff really bothered me. But the rest of the movie, top tier modern day sci-fi, for sure. It just didn't work for me. The Deckards, it just didn't work. I think I actually something I agree with Razor Fist on, oddly enough, but I don't agree with him that stuff with Ryan Gosling. That stuff's great. That stuff's amazing. I probably like Kay better than Deckard too. I like Kay a lot. I think Kay's great. Yeah, it's just bringing... The problem is they bring Deckard and Rachel, but that stuff doesn't work for me. I think it really hurts the standalone nature of Blade Runner 2049. It was working as its own movie, and then they kind of force in this being a direct sequel thing, and I think it hurts it. I don't actually think it improves the movie they're making. I think they actually had their own story that was much better. Felt like a long Black Mirror episode, but instead it turns into very much connected to Blade Runner. And that really bothered, because I think the baby thing's retarded. I mean, and it was Ridley Scott's idea, that just screams Prometheus Alien Covenant to me. That was Ridley Scott's idea, and I'm like, yeah, the baby thing is fucking retarded. It stretches the premise so much for me, it's just laughable. But I just think the first one has more nuance. I think it has more mysteries. I don't think 2049 has a lot of mysteries and lingering questions. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. The first one, there's things you still think about. I mean, there's flaws in the first Blade Runner. It has slow pacing. Deckard never feels as fleshed out as, like, Roy Batty, who's the best part. That scene with the thing where he's looking at the picture takes, like, 5 minutes. But for the most part, Blade Runner is one of my, like, 20 favorite films, so I'm always going to hold up for Blade Runner. I mean, I did a 45-minute essay video on Blade Runner. I think Blade Runner's a fucking amazing movie. I mean, I think you'd have to go with Blade Runner out of those choices, just because Akira and The Fifth Element were so influenced by Blade Runner. It's hard not to give it to Blade Runner that came out before. Although you could credit that even going back to Metropolis. So I don't know. It depends on what you think. But those other films were influenced by Blade Runner visually, so I don't know. That's a tough question. He really is. Ridley Scott definitely is a mixed bag. I think a reboot made more sense too, or a sequel that was a sequel but not a direct sequel. If it was just about Ryan Gosling being a Blade Runner and it was called Blade Runner, but it wasn't connected, I think that would have worked too. That's the kind of movie I wanted. No, I didn't watch it every day like Razor Fist, which makes me somehow fucking expert, which just screams obsession, not more expertise. It's like, dude, you don't need to watch Blade Runner every day for a year. It's not... There's no film I've ever seen that you could watch 365 times and that would make... And it's like... It's kind of laughable he even made that point. That's one of the most insane things he's ever said. The first 2 seasons of Black Mirror, the best seasons. When it was British, before it came to Netflix, and they kind of ruined it. The first 2 seasons and the White Christmas episode with John Hamm. Well, Fifth Element just is derivative of so many other comic books and movies and stories you've seen before. I mean, Luc Besson just ripped stuff off, so that definitely doesn't... I mean, I think I enjoy The Fifth Element. I think it's a fun movie. Like, I like it. I don't know if it's a lie. I mean, I believe he might have watched Blade Runner every day for a year. It's not impossible, but it's definitely not something that makes me go like, wow, that's awesome. You watch Blade Runner every day for a year? That's so great. You know Blade Runner. Like, to me, it just makes you like, roll, like, what? Are you crazy? Are you a crazy person? It comes off more insane than it does like, oh, he's an expert. It makes it just come off like he's weird. Like he has some weird obsession with this movie. Like, what, were you jerking off to it? I mean, I don't know. I guess you could make an argument that it's masturbation and technology. I mean, sure. I'm sorry, I didn't see your comment. It's not that I skipped it. I just didn't see it. Is there going to be a King Kong versus Godzilla? Yes, there is. Directed by Adam Wingard. I mean, I've watched some movies 100 times, but definitely not 100 days in a row. I've watched the same movie a week in a row. I've done that before, where I've watched a movie every day for like a week or two. I've done that many times. Like a movie I just loved, and I just kept watching it until I got tired of it. I watch it like 20, 30 times and then get burnt out watching it. But I've never watched the same movie every day for like 100 days or something. I mean, to me, yeah, that sounds insane. That makes you honestly sound like a weirdo. Like you have some weird obsession that's weird. Like it doesn't make me think of you more like you're more intelligent or that you understand it, which just makes me think like you're crazy or something. It's anyway, yeah, let's get back to the box office. I think you can watch a movie a lot. I don't think watching the same movie every day, that's just weird to me. I don't know. Anyway, The Nun. Amazing opening weekend. Once again, Warner Brothers is just having a fucking phenomenal year. What the fuck is going on with Warner Brothers? Ocean's 8, Crazy Rich Asians, The Meg. All just really successful movies. Ocean's 8's at $294 million worldwide. Let's look at it. And then last year, WB had it. So WB is like one of the only studios out there really competing with Disney right now. Rampage wasn't as big of a bomb as it looked like it was going to be. Game Night did good. Tomb Raider was a disappointment. Paddington 2 worldwide did very well. I mean, granted, they did have Justice League happen. But, you know. But now that, yeah, you look at The Nun opening weekend, this is one of the best horror opening weekends ever. This is the best opening of the Conjuring franchise. It's unfortunate James Wan didn't get to make this film, but this just shows you how popular the Conjuring franchise has become. You know, James Wan, him and Lee Winnell created the Saw franchise, then they did Insidious, then James Wan did Conjuring. The first film became a surprise, huge hit. Let's go down there with the Conjuring. Sorry, I guess we have to go to director on this, because so the first Conjuring in 2013, which is a movie I do like. $20 million budget, $41 million opening weekend, $137 million domestic, $319 million worldwide, and a very well-reviewed film. Then The Conjuring 2 comes out, also gets good reviews. Probably a film I like even a little bit better than the first film. Just a little bit too long. I feel like it needs to be like 20 minutes shorter. $40 million budget. This was the year of James Wan when he made, I mean, he had a great year. He made The Conjuring and Insidious Chapter 2 in the same year. They were both huge hits. Then he got Furious 7. This is when he just became an A-list director. Then he makes The Conjuring 2, gets really good reviews. $40 million budget, makes about the same money worldwide, $320 million, makes a little bit less domestically, but still a huge hit. $40 million opening weekend. You know, can't knock that. Very successful film. So here we are with The Nun, not directed by him, directed by Corin Hardy. James Wan wrote on it. Has terrible reviews, not like the first two films. This film actually got really bad reviews. But tons of hype. I remember seeing this trailer in the theater. I thought it would open well, like 35, 40 million. I thought because it wasn't directly connected, like because it didn't have Via Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, I didn't know if it would do as well, and James Wan wasn't directing it. But here we are. $22 million budget. Horror is alive and well in modern movies. Now with the success of It, these franchises like The Conjuring and Insidious, Annabelle, horror has not died at all as a successful genre at the box office, both domestically and internationally. If anything, it's as big as it's ever been. Horror might be bigger than it's ever been, honestly, when you just look at how many films are doing well. Opening weekend, $53.8 million, $136 million worldwide, had a $79 million international opening. Film's already made a profit. Yeah, the reviews suck. It's got a C+ cinema score. It's still a lock for 100 million. It should be able to make 200 to 300 million worldwide, even if it doesn't quite reach the first two movies. You know, the budget's lower than the second film. This is a huge hit. This is crazy. I think this overperformed. I think this defied all expectations. And I think this just makes a great argument for, if you want to make some money right now, make a horror movie. And make one with this kind of gimmick, like call it The Nun or call it The Conjuring, and I think just show a ghost walking up behind someone in a trailer for like a minute and a half, and you seem to be able to get a huge opening weekend right now. But the main thing to talk about is so many movies are making money right now, right? Like Crazy Rich Asians, The Meg, Fallout, Black Klansman, Incredibles 2, Hotel Transylvania, Ant-Man, Mamma Mia, Jurassic World did way better than anyone thought it was going to do. Black Panther, Infinity War. It's just been a huge year at the box office. It's been a huge year. It looks like it's going to break the record for overall box office made in a year. And The Nun's just another example of this. Here we are in September, and here we are with a $53 million opening weekend. Every month's had a huge movie, some movie open huge. And everything's been overperforming. Everything's been, for the most part, doing better than what people thought it would do. I mean, everything, like most of the big movies have been overperforming this year. And The Nun's just another one. So that's a terrific opening weekend. This is really just strength of a franchise, good marketing, right time to release it, riding the momentum of a very high box office year. I mean, just look at this. Look at how well a lot of these movies have done, right? Black Panther, 700 million. Infinity War, 678. Incredibles 2, 600 million. That's 3 films with over 600 million domestic. Jurassic World, 415. Deadpool 2, 318. Ant-Man, 214. Solo, 213, which is a bomb. But Fallout, 212. Quiet Place, 188 million. Hotel Transylvania, 164. Ocean's 8, 139. Ready Player One did really well, 582 worldwide. Crazy Rich Asians, 136. The Meg, 132. Mamma Mia, 120. Peter Rabbit made over 300 million worldwide. The Equalizer 2 did better than the first one. Wrinkle in Time, that was a bomb. 50 Shades Freed, that did well. Rampage did okay. I Can Only Imagine was a surprise hit Christian film. The first Purge film, 135 million worldwide on a $13 million budget. Skyscraper, I mean, not Sky, Game Night made 117 million worldwide on a $37 million budget. The recent Insidious film made $167 million on a $10 million budget. So just overall, I don't know what Blockers made worldwide, 93 million. They didn't do too bad, the budget. I wonder what Maze Runner ended up doing worldwide, 288. So overall, it's just been a big year at the box office. And it's just huge for the non, and it's Monday's 3.5 million. So what do you guys think about this? You know, I'm really curious. What do you think this means? What's going on? Why are movies doing so well right now? And not just that, why are horror films in particular right now doing so well? What is with that? I also don't like how Aquaman looks, but everyone's praising it, and I don't get it. But James Wan has proven himself, so you have to give him the benefit of the doubt. You wish you were Japanese? No. No, I do not. You play a good game, boy. Yeah, I like The Conjuring 2. Yeah, I think The Conjuring 2 is actually a better movie than the first one. Shazam does look surprisingly decent. It kind of looks like Big, but with the superhero, which is the right idea. That's actually why I always thought Shazam would be a good movie. People don't mind Shazam. I go, Shazam's a great idea. It's a little kid who turns into a superhero, but he's still a little kid. That's an amazing idea. I think it has to do with what you said about people wanting to forget the political climate. Yeah, it's weird, though, because comedies haven't been doing well. You think they would be doing better because of that, but it's horror films that are doing well. So people's escapism right now isn't to laugh. Although you could say movies like Infinity War comedic for sure. But it's horror films seem to be what people want to escape to, which I find really interesting. I don't think there's going to be time to talk about the Patrick Williams video. Unfortunately, I thought there would be, but if I do that, this will be well over 3 hours. I might just have to do a separate live stream covering Patrick Williams video point by point. Because that'll take a while. It's a 20-minute video, and it would take me at least like 45, 50 minutes to cover the whole thing and go point by point. So I feel bad because I kind of promised it, and I came in expecting that, but I spent way too long in the first half talking to you guys about all sorts of things for an hour. My plan was to do like a 25-minute intro, do the box office, and then spend the second hour, like let's say from 1 hour and 10 minutes to like 2 hours talking about Patrick's video. But we're already at 2 hours and 26 minutes, and if I started on his video now, this would be like the longest episode. So, that's my bad though. You can totally blame me for that. That's definitely my bad. Well, I don't have another day off until next Monday, but I'll try to do the live stream one of these days. I work Wednesday through Sunday. But I will try to do it like when I get home one night. I'll just try to come home one night, shower, drink a cup of coffee, and do it while I have time. I don't know what night it'll be on. That's all I can say to you guys. I did not know that. You know, one thing I gotta give you guys the last piece, though, is there's a guy I work with who wants to be a musician. And I used to joke around at work and say to everybody, I'd go up and say, hey, I believe in you. And I would say it like, I'd almost do it in that, like, believe in me who believes in you. But I would say it jokingly. But, I said it very sincere. I was like, hey, I believe in you. And I was working with this guy yesterday, and he said, when you told me that you believe in me. And I thought he was joking, because I'd say this joke. He said, you didn't even know me the first 2 weeks you said that. And he goes, I'd go home, and that made me feel better. That'd motivate me. Not just in my work, but, like, what I want to do with my life. Like, somebody telling me they believe in me. He goes, no one ever told me that before. And it fucking hit me hard emotionally, because I was just saying it in a funny way, like telling people at work, like, hey, I believe in you. But this guy really went home and he thought about it. It made me think, people don't really go out of their way to tell people things like that. They don't tell them, like, hey, I think you're a good person, or hey, I believe in you. Because they're scared of it being cheesy, or, and I always do intentionally cheesy things for fun. I kind of like fucking with people. But this guy actually went home and he thought about me saying that to him. It stayed with him. This guy had a rough life, and nobody ever told him they believed in him. So to give you a positive message, it seems so negative, don't be afraid to tell people you believe in them, or you think they can do good. I think most people are trying to do good and trying their best, and it's just circumstances get in their way. I don't think people are ultimately bad. I don't have a cynical view on people. I do on the world maybe, but not on people. I think people are generally a wonderful thing. So tell people you believe in them. Tell them that you think they're good, or that you think they can do better, and that you think they're nice, or that you like them. Don't be afraid to tell people, even that, like, hey, I like you. I think you're a good dude, or I think you're a nice, nice woman, or I appreciate what you do, or just tell them, like, hey, I hope things are good with you, or ask them how they're doing. Don't be afraid about that stuff, or just tell somebody, like, hey, I do believe in you. I think you can do what you want to, even if it doesn't work, even if they never read. It's just nice to give people a little bit of hope, and it doesn't take a lot of effort from you to do that. Don't let the distance, don't create more of a distance. Actually try to be a little bit closer with people. And I think it's worth it just to put that little bit of extra effort in to make people a little bit happy. It's great to be happy with yourself and keep yourself happy, but it's really nice to make other people happy. And I just say, I hope all of you, if there's something I want to tell you guys, to really reflect on 9/11, that was a terrible thing, and the political climate we live in now, and where things are at, and how things have changed over the last 10 years. Just I don't know, just tell people you think they can do what they want to do, and you think that they're good, and that you hope things work out. Just give them a little bit of encouragement, because everybody needs it sometimes. And I believe in all you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching for 60 episodes. I'm sorry this wasn't more of a special episode like episode 50 was, but it has been special, the journey we've gone on. And thank you for believing in me, because it means a lot to me. So, if you listen to Box Office Addict, you're probably a box office addict yourself. And I'm not here to help you get over that addiction. I want to encourage you. I'll see you for episode 61. I hope you guys keep watching the channel. And just please rewind your VHS tapes before you bring them back to the store. You're really making it shitty for me. You're deceptively insightful. That's one of my favorite compliments I ever got. I think that was last week or something. Deceptively insightful. But you guys bless my life as much as any joy I've brought to you guys. I like making you guys happy. And that's really what matters to me, you guys being happy. I mean, doing this makes me happy. I made YouTube videos, I did this stuff to be happy, but really what makes it all work is that you guys get something out of it. So thank you for listening.